season, and that means it's bug season. Heck, who am I kidding? It's always bug season in Texas. And that's why you need Grandeur Pest Solutions in your corner. They're locally owned and operated. They're trained, they're trustworthy, and they have a proven record as they have been in business for almost 10 years. They provide pest control against ants, bed bugs, bees, roaches, fleas, wasps, mosquitoes, rodents, spiders. If it crawls and you don't like it, they're probably going to take care of it for you. Now, they serve all of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they're locally owned. These two guys have been running this business since 2013, and every year they get bigger and bigger. But you know what they still do? They still have great customer service. In fact, if you get a hold of them, they're usually going to have your quote and your job ready to go within 48 hours. That's pretty good. Now, you can call them for a free estimate at 469-809-1769. You can find them online at Grandeur 4, that's the number 4, shore.com. You can also find them on Facebook. Just type in Grandeur Pet Solutions, and we are so happy.
Buck, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
This might have been the greatest weekend of football in 2025 because the Longhorns and the Cowboys did not play. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett, the host, intern Noe, the commissioner pro. First off, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing well. It was a fun football weekend because I had no personal investment in it, though there was some great Texas college football that we're going to be talking about. Big NFL news. Again, we're a little late because of just the format of the show. We'll talk about the tragedy in Dallas and the trade in Dallas and just that weekend that was in the NFL yesterday and Thursday. But before we do that, we already did the how you doing, so let's get to the what you drinking.
Today I'm doing Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve. I think I've drinking on the show once before, but there's a single malt Scotch whiskey. It's not bad. It's just typical Scotch with a little bit of a rum finish. So
Slumming it.
Yeah, rumming it. Yeah, a rum job. How are you doing, buddy? What are you drinking?
I'm doing well. I'm tired. The high school playoffs are here. The first 10 weeks of the season fly by. The 6 weeks of the playoffs, which is my favorite, it's crazy busy. But other than that, great. And I'm just doing what I always do. I drink Taka the vodka. They really should advertise with us. All right, so let's jump into the college side. We'll do college first, then we'll do the NFL. A little weird. This is a fully recorded show. I think this is our first fully recorded show that's not going on Patreon or live. It's going straight up on YouTube. We will be back live next Monday for the Cowboys, the Raiders. Cowboys have that weird thing where they're playing technically consecutive Monday night games with a bye week in between. I don't think I've ever seen Dallas do that.
Yeah, I can't recall a single time that happened. I was thinking about that today when I was looking and checking. I was like, oh, yeah, they play Monday night game again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah. I kept looking to make sure, like, is that right? Monday nights, and I know everybody will be seeing this on Wednesday, so it's a little late, but a great Monday night, at least on paper tonight. Green Bay hosting the Philadelphia Eagles, maybe the two favorites right now in the NFC to make the NFC title game. But anyway, let's go and turn our attention to college. Texas was off, but it was still a very impactful Texas college football weekend. Let's go ahead and start with the big one. Texas Tech beats top 10 BYU 29-7 in a game, honestly, that really shouldn't have been that close. And I don't mean that Texas Tech was necessarily doing anything wrong. It's just you can tell with Baron Morton beat up, and you know they have injuries at quarterback. That's going to be the thing. If Texas Tech stumbles, it's going to be the quarterback issue that makes them stumble, in my opinion.
Yeah, that and another thing I noticed in the game over the weekend was their problems scoring in the red zone, which kind of sounds weird considering it's Texas Tech, but Tech was driving up and down the field against BYU, but once they got into the red zone, they had issues with the short gains, the short plays. They're a very explosive team. A lot of their touchdowns this season, if you go back and look, there are a lot of big plays. And they settled for field goals because they just could not execute. And credit to BYU. Defense solid, but a lot of those opportunities in the red zone are wasted just because Texas just has issues with the short yardage situations.
Again, I think a lot of that, though, is their quarterbacks are just so beat up. You're taking part of what they do away by running them around in space, especially in those short yardage situations. Cameron Dickey on the ground, 121 yards, 1 touchdown. This is one of the things I like about Texas Tech. You've got Dickey and you've got Jacoby Williams. You've got 2 guys that can tote the rock. I still don't understand what's going on with Micah Hudson, the 5-star stud who first went to Texas Tech and then he went to A&M. Now he's back at Texas Tech, and he's just done nothing. And to me, one of the things that another concern I am about the offense is finding more guys who can catch the ball and who can be dynamic.
Yeah, Micah Hudson from Temple, Texas, sophomore, hasn't really done much. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at his stats. Last year, he only had 8 catches, 123 yards. This year, 6 catches, 67 yards. Maybe they just have talent around. I mean, I know they sling it around. What I like about Tech now is they're very balanced.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, yeah, they need to, especially in these bigger games that will be coming up, because they'll probably make the playoffs, especially if they run the table. They're for sure in the playoffs. Playing against them like the Ohio States of the world, Indiana's of the world, they're going to struggle if they can't get that firepower on the receiving side.
Tech has 2 more games this Saturday against UCF at home, and then they go on the road to West Virginia. Now, if that's an 11 o'clock game, West Virginia's not good, but if that's an 11 o'clock game, that's always a problem for teams going into Morgantown. But I'm like you, Tech has a clear sell. Now, we have to figure out how I'm trying to look at everything. So as long as Arizona State stays away from getting into the tiebreakers, I think Texas Tech owns every tiebreaker above them, except for Cincinnati. But them and Cincinnati didn't play, I guess. I'm trying to make sure before I say that.
Yeah, I don't think them and Cincinnati.
Yeah, they beat them. They beat them 44-41. So yeah, as long as Texas Tech wins out, they've won the Big 12, or at least the regular season. Now I don't know. This is one of those weird things. I guess I didn't realize. Each conference, it's up to them to decide: is it the regular season champion or the conference game champion that makes the playoff? I think the Big 12, it's the regular season champion. I think that's stupid. If you're going to have,
they didn't play each other.
Yeah, they did.
I'm looking at Cincinnati. You said Cincinnati and Texas Tech?
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't play each other.
Oh, I have it 44-41.
Oh, let me double check, because I just looked at Cincinnati's schedule.
That was last year. I'm sorry, that was last year.
Okay.
Or Google.com, when you go to their standings, it scrolls really, really fast. So I don't know how that tiebreaker is going to work. Again, if you're going to have a conference championship game, make the conference championship game be what gets the team into the playoffs. What's the point of having a conference championship game if it literally means nothing? I think that's goofy as hell. And I think the Big 12, it's regular season.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Arizona State, they lost to Utah, they lost to Houston. So they have the 2 conference losses. So, yeah, I mean, it's Texas Tech's to lose. They should win this weekend.
I don't know how the Cincinnati thing works since they don't play each other. Texas Tech. So right now it's Texas Tech, BYU, and Cincinnati. Texas Tech is 6-1, BYU is 5-1, and Cincinnati's 5-1. We're talking about in conference, of course. They beat BYU, so they have a tiebreaker over them. But what
Cincinnati and BYU play each other?
Okay, so if Cincinnati beats BYU, what's the tie? How do you decide that tiebreaker?
Well, Texas Tech beat BYU, Cincinnati beat BYU in this scenario, so it'd be Texas Tech and Cincinnati for the Big 12 title.
Yeah, but I'm talking about who would go to the playoff. Because, again, they do the regular season champion makes the playoff. I wonder if they go with highest seed or highest rating or ranking. A lot of teams do that, or a lot of conferences do that. But, again, Big 12, just make the Big 12 championship game you win the Big 12 championship game, you go into the playoffs. No matter what's your record, if you get there, you deserve it. I think it's weird to decide that by Tech. Because how is that fair to Cincinnati if Texas Tech gets to go over them and they never had a chance to play each other?
Reminds me of 2001, Colorado and Nebraska for the Big 12 title game, and then Colorado just steamrolled them, but Nebraska ends up playing in the championship against Miami.
Yep, exactly. And speaking of, it looks like the college football, I can't remember who it was, said that they don't, they thought for sure next year they were going to be able to expand to 16 games. Now they don't know if some people are having some issues with it. Look, if it's 16, that's fine. I like 12. I like 16. Either one works. I think this year's proven this whole adage where everybody's like, well, games won't matter. Games matter more when you have more teams involved. I would rather games matter for 20 teams and they all be great to watch instead of games only matter for 10 teams, but they're all unbeaten. Again, college fans and the whole college atmosphere and attitude has got to stop thinking undefeated means anything. That's great if you're undefeated, but you can lose games and still be a championship team.
And I think that's what they mean because they're still stuck in the past, essentially. Two losses now doesn't mean you're automatically disqualified, especially if you're in the SEC or the Big Ten.
3 losses don't. I mean, Alabama barely missed the playoffs last year with 3 losses. Texas, if they were to lose to Georgia or A&M, but beat the other one and beat Arkansas, they would be in the conversation. I will go ahead and say as a Texas fan, if they get left out with 3 losses, I'd have no problem with that. I totally understood. I understood it last year with Alabama. Yeah, Alabama had some great wins, but they had a couple ugly losses. Texas only has 1 ugly loss, but it's an ugly loss when the coach gets fired 2 weeks later after a win. That one's still – I'm not saying Billy Napier deserved to stay, but that's just – I don't know what Florida's doing there. But anyway, let's move over to the other Texas top 10 team that played this week, and that's the Aggies, and they just keep looking good as they dispatch of Missouri 38-17. At what point does Marcel Reed get into the Heisman talk?
He's the guy that's not even been mentioned. I remember watching the Indiana Penn State game on Saturday, and they just kept talking about Fernando Mendoza leading Texas Tech. They're talking about Jacob Rodriguez, the star linebacker. He's all over the field. No one's talking about Marcel Reed. They're saying he's benefiting from the fact that he has KC Concepcion and Mario Cravo, wide receiver, an elite offensive line, a solid running game. They're just saying he's just driving the bus. I disagree, especially if you watch the Notre Dame game, how clutch he was. He does have a lot of talent, but yeah, to me, him, Mendoza, Rodriguez are top 3 right now.
Oh, Rodriguez is not a top 3 Heisman. I love his story, and he's a stud. 14 tackles in the last game. He had an interception. Love the Heisman pose, but he's not going to get top 3 votes. I would love it, but he's not. I mean, it's hard. It was hard. I mean, you could even make the case that Charles Woodson I'm not going to say didn't deserve the Heisman, but probably shouldn't have won the Heisman when you look at what Peyton Manning was doing and all. That was in that weird era because Peyton Manning couldn't beat Florida for some reason. That was an issue for the voters. Rodriguez is awesome, but man, there is no way he makes the top 3.
You know why I think he does?
Why?
Because of lack of alternate options.
That's a good point. That's a real good point.
And it's not because I think he is having a great year. Texas Tech is having a great year. They run the table. They're in the playoffs. Great story. But because of lack of options, we have to go defense.
So let me ask you this: if in his last 3 games, I mean, you're right about lack of options. I feel like Archer Manning could play himself back into the Heisman race if he plays like he did against Vanderbilt to finish out the season. Because here's the weird thing about Archie Manning. Like, everybody talks about how he started the season and all. But when you actually go look at his stats, and I'm pulling up right now, if you actually go look at his stats on the year, I mean, his stats are pretty damn good. Not Archie. Archer.
You keep calling him Archie. That's the problem.
I know. It's a joke I heard on a podcast. Well, no, see, even when I went Archer Manning, it goes to Archie. See, even Pro Football or SportsReference.com don't get it right. So on the year, Manning has thrown for 2,100 yards. He's completing 63%, 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I don't think he's thrown an interception in 3 games. We were live and saw what I think was his best performance of the year against Vanderbilt last week. I mean, he legitimately, in my opinion, if he can continue that type of game where he's throwing around 300, a couple touchdowns against the Georgia defense that's not good or not great, but still gets the Georgia rep against a really good A&M defense, I think Archer plays himself back into it as well.
Very possible, but he's going to have to really show up these next 3 weeks for sure. But like you said, if he plays like he did against Vanderbilt, the game we watched, for sure. Diego Pavia, quarterback Vanderbilt, might get some love. Ty Simpson, quarterback at Alabama, might get some love. But that just kind of shows how weak the Heisman race has been this season. A lot of good players, but just no one that's really that you would even say is Heisman worthy.
You call it weak. I call it diversified. I call it like it's nice that it's not one or two guys. Like I'm extremely shocked that Sampson, the quarterback for Alabama, hasn't been talked about more simply because he's the quarterback at Alabama, who I still think might be maybe the best all-around team in college football when it's all said and done. Doesn't mean they're going to win it. That's the great thing about the playoffs. As we always talk about in the high school, the playoff isn't to decide the best team of the season. It's to decide who wins the playoffs. That's all it is. And they easily could get beat. But, I mean, Alabama, dude, everybody wants to look at that Florida State loss, and it gets worse every week because of what Florida State's doing. But, again, we've got to – this whole bad loss thing, I just think that needs to change now with how the playoffs are and how multiple teams can make the playoffs, especially if they do eventually expand it to 16 games.
Yeah, I mean, there's history where even in the '83 season, Miami, they get blown out to start the season, and then they run the table and win the championship. There's precedents to teams losing badly during the regular season and still going on to win the championship. Alabama's a great team. They find unique ways to win some of these close games. What I think A&M actually, really after what happened with Indiana on Saturday, I'm going to say A&M's probably the best all-around team that I've seen so far this season. But Alabama, very resilient, especially with the coach in his second year replacing a legend. Every week was fire Daboll. But now they've kind of turned the table, and those voices have been quieted.
Yeah, they really have. Sam Houston State gets their first win. Just
congratulations. They beat in the derpiest ways of possible.
Yeah, behind special teams having 2 touchdowns in the second half. It was an ugly game. Man, Oregon State is bad. Like, I grew up in the 80s where Oregon and Oregon State were pretty bad. It was Oregon, Oregon State, Kansas, and Kansas State. They were all 4 just bad. But Oregon was always good bad. They weren't terrible. They were always up for an upset or 2 every year over a 20th ranked Arizona or something in the old Pac-10 and everything, or Pac-8, then Pac-10. But then Oregon got good. And then Oregon State got good. And then Kansas State got good. And then Kansas got good and kind of went back and forth. Oregon State has fallen all the way back to those early they are terrible. The Beavers they're hard to watch. I'll tell you a team that's not hard to watch. That's SMU. I told you, we talked about this, even though Boston College is not a good team. I said, dude, a Dallas team going on to the East Coast, the first cold snap of the year. It's an 11 o'clock start. So for the guys in their bodies, it's like 8 a.m., 9 a.m. Yet Kevin Jennings throws for 3 touchdowns. Derek McFell runs for another 3. And SMU, man, what a way to rebound after the slow start to their season. They're a team that I don't know if they're going to be able to find their path into the playoffs, but if they were able to, I would not want to play them.
If you look at the standings in the ACC, SMU is starting to have a outside shot. Virginia, they lost in a big upset to Wake Forest. Wake Forest is bowl eligible, shockingly enough. Georgia Tech,
salty, man.
Huh?
Wake Forest is pretty salty.
They've been pretty salty this year. They did beat SMU actually this year as well. Luckily for SMU, they're 5-1 in conference. Wake Forest, team that did beat SMU, is 3-3. So as long as SMU just runs the table, they have an outside shot. Right now, they're tied, like a 5-way tie for first place. Duke, SMU, Pittsburgh, Virginia, Georgia Tech. Virginia lost because Chandler Morris got hurt, their star quarterback, and there was really no touchdown in that game except for, I believe, a punt return. Mm-hmm. And so there's a shot. Georgia Tech's finally lost. Pittsburgh, they're a team that's ascending. So at some point, SMU is still in the thick of it for the ACC. They're 7-3, but they still have a shot. They play Louisville. They play Cal to close out the season. They get a little bit of help. They could probably sneak into the ACC title game.
Again, I don't know their tiebreakers, and I'm assuming not everybody. They're all not going to finish 5-1, but they're going to need some help. Pittsburgh and Georgia Tech play, so that'll eliminate one of those 5-1s. Assuming they don't, each get beat again. Virginia plays Duke and Virginia Tech. The Virginia Tech doesn't matter. So Virginia Duke will eliminate one. So as long as SMU keeps their head down and wins their games, it looks like it'll be them and Georgia Tech, who plays Pittsburgh. So I guess hang on, let me make sure I got this right. If you're
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you're SMU, you need Pittsburgh to lose to Georgia Tech and Miami, and that would give them 2 losses. And then you need Virginia to lose to Duke, and that would give them 2 losses and keep Duke with 1 loss. Is that to SMU?
I'll have to look. Let me look at SMU's schedule.
I don't think it is. See, this is the problem with the bigger conferences. I have no problem with them, but you got to either have everybody just play each other and don't have any non-con games, or you've got to do divisions, because this is just really stupid to where there will be tiebreakers where teams in the same conference never play each other, yet one of them will go over another one to a championship game. That just we got to go back to the divisions if we're going to do it this way, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm looking at. I think SMU has a really easy shot. In Louisville, they've lost again this weekend in an upset to Cal, the Golden Bears. I think they got the 6 wins. They're bowl eligible. But yeah, Pittsburgh, they got to play Notre Dame. They got to play Georgia Tech and Miami, like you were saying. Virginia, I'm not sure how severe Chandler Morris's injury is, but they got to, like you said, play Duke and Virginia Tech. I could see Duke is not bad. They had a close loss this Saturday to UConn. UConn's 7-2 or 7-3, which was shocking to me when I saw that. But yeah, I mean, things can happen. There's still a shot where SMU can get to the ACC title game. So we'll just see what happens the next 2 weeks.
Houston 30, UCF 27. Connor Weigman throws for 2 touchdowns, runs for 82 yards, passes for 233 yards. Good bounce back for the Cougars. They're just quietly 8-2. I don't think they're a great 8-2, but from where that program has been, 8-2 is 8-2.
Yeah, they've improved. They're winning the games they should. The 2 losses they had, where one was to a superior team in Texas Tech, one was to a team that plays very good in their home stadium, and that's West Virginia. So kudos at Houston this season.
That's still, though, that's the albatross. That loss against West Virginia is going to keep Houston out of possibly being in the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, it will, and it's sad, but again, this is a good building block. This might help with recruiting. We just have to see what happens in the offseason.
Yeah, that's a good point. Again, though, we are in an era now where it's nil and transfers. You have that what used to be a building block year could just be out of nowhere, and then everybody transfers. And the thing about it, and look, you and I have talked about this many times on the air, off the air. I'm all for the transfers and stuff. But some of these guys are just transferring for the sake of transferring almost. And I know, they're getting Neil at their school that they're at. And, it's just some of these transfers is just really, really weird. But anyway, staying in the Big 12, Iowa State beats TCU 20-17. Iowa State doing what Iowa State does. They start the year ranked. Everybody pumps them up. Matt Campbell's the next great one. And then they'll lose a couple games they're not supposed to. But then by the time the season gets close to November, they're a team you don't want to play. Iowa and Iowa State, they mirror each other so much, it just blows my mind.
Yeah, same state, same sort of principles, different jerseys. They hard-fought wins, hard-fought losses. And speaking of Iowa, they had a hard-fought home loss to Oregon in a very rainy, sloppy game, 18-16. So yeah, to your point, they always usually play a pretty solid game from start to end, and they usually lose to the teams they should lose. They don't really get many upsets, either of these teams. But yeah, I feel bad for TCU. I cursed them when I was crowning Josh Hoover after week 3 as the Heisman front runner, but my bad, guys. I really don't care for the Horned Frogs that much, though. Their fans are kind of, I don't know. What was that old definition of a douchebag? It's like you carry yourself with an undeserving sense of accomplishment.
Oh yeah, no. So we call them Grant and I when we talk about that at the high school level. So you've got 2 type of fan bases when your team hasn't won consistently. The ones that are just happy to be there, like it's this. Oh, this is awesome. This is great. And then you got the ones that immediately act like this is where they should be. And you're saying, not me, not Terry the host, Noe the commissioner, this will be a 30-second short. You're saying TCU fans are front runners who act like they should be there when they shouldn't be.
Correct. and this is my objective opinion as someone who has no loyalty to any team. I went to UT Arlington, so I really don't care.
Hey, they haven't lost in 45 years, brother.
And counting.
You cannot beat UTA. That is just a simple fact. This is like year 20 of their study for football. They supposedly keep every about 5 years they renew that. Oh yeah, we're still studying it. What are you studying exactly? Like this isn't really that hard to figure out. But I will say this. Now they've announced it under the guise of because Choctaw Stadium, I guess former ballpark in Arlington is going to be demolished. The Arlington Renegades are now the Dallas Renegades. They've moved up to Frisco. Yeah, I know it doesn't make sense if you don't live in Dallas, but it does if you do live in Dallas. Frisco is Dallas. And really the only thing at Choctaw there now would be the high school games for Arlington ISD. Well, UTA has announced that they're updating Maverick Stadium again. Very underrated stadium, by the way. They're updating it again to once again start hosting high school games and high school playoffs. But they also said part 2 is we're once again looking into starting a football program. I really think they should. Like in this area, if you're not trying to immediately be a D1 school, if you take your time and build yourself up through the divisions, UTA, I mean, there's no reason why UTA wouldn't be a fun place to play football.
Good location, where the Cowboys play, where the Renegades used to play. A lot of good high schools in Arlington too, so it'd be easy recruiting for UTA if they could. There's a lot of good talent over there. Affordable living, so I think it's a win-win-win. And I love the school. I majored in accounting there. Nursing and accounting are strong programs there. Not that I'm trying to like advertise for the university or anything.
They got great colors. They have kind of like a Denver Bronco look with the Maverick. Now, that's the fun thing. My high school is a Maverick, but we go with the bull or the Longhorn look. And then UTA goes as a Maverick with the horse. And they really do. If they were to do their helmets, I would do it almost, or their uniforms, I'd do it almost exactly like Denver's old one. Instead of the D with the horse, just put the A with the horse behind it, like bucking up. I think that'd look really, really cool. All right, let's talk about 2 teams that maybe the coaches that everybody keeps saying is going to be moving on this year. Maybe the shine has wore off on them, or maybe this will make them leave quicker. I am, of course, talking about Texas State losing to Louisiana 42-39. The Bobcats fall to 3-6, and then South Florida thumps UTSA 55-23. I'm really surprised by this one. Not that South Florida won. South Florida is really, really good. But just after UTSA had thumped Tulane last week on a Thursday night, I watched that game, and UTSA looked like UTSA of old. So I was really shocked that they absolutely got dominated in this one. Byron Brown throws for 239, runs for 109, scored 3 touchdowns. I think at one point South Florida was like 8 of 8 on third down conversions. And I mean, we're not talking 3rds and 2. I mean, they were 3rds and 12s, throwing a screen, it gets them 13 yards type of thing. So I have to wonder, does this get the shine off of Texas State head coach G.J. Kinney and UTSA head coach Jeff Traylor? A lot of people have talked about them with Arkansas. Of course, they both have connections to Arkansas. A lot of people have talked about them with Oklahoma State, among other schools. I've even heard Jeff Traylor in Auburn now that Hugh Freeze has been fired. But you got to wonder, man, both of these teams, they're now a combined 9-11 or 7-11. I don't know how hot those are going to look to schools now.
Yeah, neither of them. I mean, they're good coaches, good resumes, but yeah, this season was just not good for either Texas State or UTSA. Now, for just this 1 week, I would say Texas State had the more impressive showing. Louisiana was up huge, 42-20, and then Texas State scored the last 19 points. They almost staged a huge comeback.
Yeah, on kick away.
Yeah. And by the way, Louisiana's quarterback, Lunch Winfield, what a name, right?
Great name.
South Florida got 2 scores that were non-offensive to start the game, and that basically just ended it for UTSA. UTSA's, I think, last touchdown or 2 were at the very end of the game. So that
points.
This was a much bigger blowout than the 55-23 score indicates. It kind of reminds me of the game South Florida had with North Texas, where like in a 3.5-minute span, they created 2 or 3 turnovers that resulted in 28 points, and that basically doomed North Texas. That was the only bad part of football for North Texas this whole season, 3.5 minutes.
This is really weird. This makes no sense, but Whenever we talk about South Florida doing that, it always brings me back to Tulane basketball, back when Perry Clark was the head coach. And he was one of those that had that second team group that all they were supposed to do on the court was to create havoc, turnovers. He didn't care if you fouled out in 5 minutes. He wanted you to be aggressive. And that was always like such a cool thing. I know it's a tangent time. Damn you, vodka. I miss college basketball when you could run press. You can't now. It's universally been broken. It is extremely, as long as you don't give the ball to the big guys who can't pass, every team can break the press. So that's why you don't see presses anymore. I miss press basketball. I miss, 40 feet of hell. I miss, we'll run you out of the gym. I miss all that. Anyway, let's go back to football. Quit getting me on a tangent, Noe. God, I hate when you do that. Speaking of Tulane, see that segue? Professional. They beat Memphis in a good game, 38-32. Hey, Tulane, I know that UTSA loss is bad, though. That's going to be what keeps them out. But I love that the Green Wave, a new coach now. I mean, he's here. This is his second year, but a new coach after what they did a couple years ago, and they haven't gone anywhere. They are still in contention. This is why I keep saying, everybody says that this whole new hierarchy is the death of small college. I think with the Group 5, it keeps teams like that able to get people to come in because, hey, yeah, you can go to SEC and play for Kentucky and never have a chance, or you can come to Tulane, and if we get through our schedule, we'll be in the playoffs. And I love the way this is done for the small schools.
Yeah, I love that too. And it creates quality football from number 1 to number 50 instead of just 1 to 15, where it's all the good players going to go to these big schools because they have a higher chance of playing, or not playing, but like getting drafted because they're from these big schools. Even if you're back like Brad Johnson for Florida State, didn't start, still had a long NFL career.
That's a good point. I always forget it. Hang on. All right, let's talk about it. I'm going to actually put this into the video again. We're recording this. We're recording on Monday night. It'll go up Wednesday morning. The catch of the year. I mean, let's go ahead and say it. It's the catch of the year. Not only the catch itself, because honestly, we saw one at the Texas game that was almost just as good. The same where the first foot almost touched and then it didn't, and the second one came down. That was just for a first down. That didn't decide the game. This was I don't want to say season saving because Indiana still would have a path to the playoffs, but everybody is trying so hard to knock them down this year. They're trying so hard to make excuses of, well, A&M has played blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, Indiana beat Oregon. Like, that kind of trumps everything. And they want to make it like it's a big deal that it was Penn State. Look, folks, Penn State's still good. They're just in a weird season. But anyway, point is, Omar Cooper Jr.'s toe tap TD, and the official on the spot right there. Have you seen that slow-mo video? I'm going to put it right now. That slow-mo video of the official keeping his head up, ball's caught, look down, first foot didn't touch, second foot touch, boom, touchdown. Everything about that play was great. Even the Penn State defender, you can't ask him to do anything better on that play. Just one of the best plays I've seen in a long time.
And the cherry on top, the announcer lost his voice calling it. He became a fan in that moment.
I'm going to play that now, but my favorite part, and I hope I can find the long one, is when he basically was like, did he? He did.
He's getting a contract extension after this season. That was hilarious.
So mad he wasn't at that game. Gus Johnson's head would have just exploded on air. Oh, but that was awesome, dude. And look, talk about where that puts Indiana and all. This is one of the things, and this goes way past now. This is how it's always been. Just enjoy the fact that a 3-5 Penn State team that has nothing else to play for, put it all on the line to try to beat a top 2-3 team. That's what this is supposed to be about. A great game, a conference game. It was cold. It was raw. The weather's perfect. The uniforms for both teams, chef kiss. I'm telling you, Indiana's uniforms are so underrated. I do wish they would pop out the white helmets. They haven't done that in a long, long time. But the red, their red is so cool looking because it's that, everybody talks about Alabama's crimson. It really isn't. It's more of a maroon red. Indiana is a true crimson in that UI look, and Penn State always looks great. Just a really good game. On the flip side, a close game as well, but good God, Iowa, quit making every game ugly. Like, dude, we get it. You have a good defense. Now go get a good offense. It blows my mind how Iowa is allergic to offense.
They have been, as long as you and I have probably been watching football. They can produce good offensive linemen, good tight ends, running backs, never a quarterback. And that usually ends up being Kurt Ferentz's downfall. I remember like in 01 or 02, they had a Brad Banks at quarterback. He was solid. He got him to the Rose Bowl. I think he was in the Heisman contender or Davey O'Brien contender. But they got exposed by USC in the Rose Bowl. Even their best quarterback still wasn't close to being good enough.
I will just never understand defensive coaches. And for some reason, it's always defensive. You know, people say, well, you know, Leach had bad defenses. He didn't have bad defenses like by design. He tried to recruit. He just couldn't get like real defensive guys to come out to Texas Tech, though they would always be really the type defense that would annoy good teams. But I will never understand defensive coaches like Kirk, like Buddy Ryan, like Rex Ryan, who just will not put a good offense. Like, you've got a great defense. So go get a balls to the wall offense because you've got a great defense that can protect your offense if they do score too quick or they do, you know, that they have a couple turnovers in the game. There is no reason Iowa is not a top 15 team year in and year out with how good those defenses are. It blows my mind, man.
It blows my mind too, because look at it this year. They're 6-3. Their 3 losses at Iowa State, 16-13, when Iowa State was ranked 16. At home game versus Indiana barely won, 20-15. And then this game, 18-16, home game versus number 9 Oregon. And 3 ranked teams, very close.
Yep.
And you can tell what the difference is in all 3 of those games.
Well, and the sad thing is he had to basically, I think he had to fire him. He might still be on staff in another position, but famously, Iowa last year made it where if they didn't score, like if they didn't average so many points per game, he had to let his son, the offensive coordinator, go. He might have kept him on staff at a lower position. So they've had change, and yet it's the same thing. And it just sucks. Look, that was a guy that for 20 years, whenever Texas was about to make a coaching change, he was always one of those that was thrown up. Big time coach, does things the right way for the most part, I think. Now, I know, didn't he run into like a bullying thing a few years ago where players were saying that he was like, you know, treating them wrong and they had some investigation? I think he faced some things, but it was never like completely sold. But the point is, he for the most part has a stellar reputation as a head coach. Yet offensively, just go back to the wing teeth. F it. If you're going to do it, go all the way old school. Go back to 1920 and, hey, there, I was coming out with the quarterback. He's going to hold the ball. Oh, he fakes it. Look at that little trickery there. It's so frustrating because they have such an underrated look. I love watching football in Iowa. You know, they do give cancer to the kids. That's a little sad, but still, they at least acknowledge them. But no, that's one of the coolest things that happened. And you know what makes that one cool is that was so organic. That wasn't ever meant to be like, we're doing this just to become a thing. It literally became we need to, you know, these guys are always watching. Anyway, cool. But anyway, let's move on. Wake Forest. We talked about they beat Virginia. California, we talked about beat Louisville. Wisconsin beats Washington. Okay, Wisconsin, where the hell have y'all been?
They've looked so bad all season long.
Oh, my God, terrible. And Luke Fickell is coming back next year.
I guess he took that news very well, and so did his defense because they lit up Washington. This was unexpected. Wisconsin has not looked good all season, even in their wins. I don't know where this came from. I don't know why this wasn't here all season. They could have made that Alabama game much more competitive had this defense showed up. Washington's a solid team. I thought they were going to win by at least 3 touchdowns in this game.
You know, everybody talks about, you know, well, in Iowa, what's it like to have to go? I'm just naming a team. I'm not saying they played them this year, but Iowa has to go out to Washington. Indiana has to go out to Washington. But what they don't understand is those teams do that once. Washington has to go into the Midwest, East Coast 4 or 5 times a year. I am all for we don't need regional conferences anymore. The only reason we ever had regional conferences is because travel. That's the only reason, folks. This, and I get it. It's fun. I miss the old Southwest Conference, but I also understand it would not survive in today's world. It didn't survive in the 80s, even though people want to act like it's simply because they all told on each other, which is partially true because they were all cheating. But also the problem is SEC was starting to get national contracts, and nobody, ESPN didn't want to contract with a conference that was only just Texas and an Arkansas. Now, if you'd have had a Oklahoma or an LSU with them too, or both of them, well then, okay, yeah, damn, that would have been great. What the hell were they not thinking? Dude, Oklahoma State, Arkansas, LSU, get rid of, at the time, I'm not talking about now, I'm talking about in the 80s, get rid of, SMU and TCU and Baylor and replace, holy shit, we'd still be talking about the Southwest Conference. But anyway, but still, just move on. I'm frustrated.
Camp Randall Stadium, Wisconsin, like that's a tough place to play. It used to be, but they had back-to-back shutouts. They lost to Iowa at home 37-0, then to Ohio State 34-0. They lost to Maryland earlier in the season 27-10. These are just the home losses. You know, they lost to Alabama and Ann Arbor at Michigan. So this at Camp Randall Stadium, it's not as tough to play. So really no excuse for Washington. They just put out a dud.
You know what happened to Wisconsin? It's the day they signed Bo Callahan. Once that happened, I mean, first off, you bring in Sam Elliott, who'd never coached before. And, you know, so let me ask you something, Noe. What do you think's more plausible? That a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback had a birthday party and no one showed up? Or maybe that the cops, understanding they didn't want to pinch these poor guys at a party, didn't take names? That's when the program went to hell. I'm just telling you.
Terry, I keep telling you, draft day was just fictional.
I'm sorry. Baker Mayfield is still playing in the league. All right, Vanderbilt in another classic. Look, I know our sometimes co-host and my all-time high school co-host, Grant Goodwin, he has a weird hate for Hugh Freeze and Diego Pava, but you got to give Pavia credit. The dude just knows how to be fun. Once again, they look listless, and then he goes, hang on, boys. Shoulders, come on, get up on here. Let's go. Throws for 377 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think 220 of that was in the second half. Vanderbilt, I don't care where they are fun to watch. I hope he gets another year. I think he should be able to play there until he gets retirement. I'm all for that. It keeps Vanderbilt relevant. But anyway, fun game. And again, Auburn, give them credit. They've lost their head coach. Their season's basically dead, yet they throw it all out there.
8-2 Vanderbilt. Let that sink in. Pavia, 377 yards, 3 touchdowns. Outstanding. Yeah. I think Auburn has a really good program. They just need the right coach. I really thought it was Hugh Freeze just because he's so good at recruiting, but it just didn't work out this year.
Well, and I will say this, and it's the same thing I say about Florida. I feel like they pulled the trigger way too soon. I'm not saying he would have fixed it, but the programs that start trying to pull the trigger too quick, that usually becomes an issue. And I think Auburn is in that issue at the moment as well. Also, I think it's time to start talking about the fact that, you know, when you look at Vanderbilt, they've now, I mean, it's crazy to think of where they were. And I will admit, my bad. I don't know why. I thought the Derek Mason that was the head coach there was Derek Mason. It's not. Different coach. But after James Franklin left, and you know, he had really brought them to prominence with back-to-back, I think it was 9 and 4 years. And then Derek Mason came in and they immediately went to crap. And then they brought in Clark Lee. I hadn't even heard of him. They went to crap. But now he has rebuilt them. And now it feels like, I'm not saying they're going to be here to stay as far as an SEC team. Actually, they remind me right now of, they are the Mike Leach, Texas Tech of the Big 12. They're not going to win a conference. They're always going to be really solid. They're going to hang around. They're going to find ways to beat teams, but they're always going to drop 2 or 3 games that they can't win. But I don't think they're going anywhere. I don't think we're going to see Vandy at 2-10 again anytime soon.
I just want to see how they are after Diego Pavia graduates.
In 7 years.
In 7 years, yeah. I saw Florida and how they've been the last 15 years since Tim Tebow left. They have had some 9 and 10 win seasons, but never was it because of the offense. It was always because of a stout defense. and they can never consistently be that good. So I think there's something to it. Like right now, there's a problem that Florida, football-wise, basketball team won a championship. They're fine. I think the same thing could be said here with Vanderbilt. I'm not sure how good they really are once Pavia leaves.
I will disagree with you on one thing, though. Again, Florida's problem right now is they're in that, like when Dan Mullen was there, Dan Mullen in back-to-back years, 10-2, 10-3 and 11-2, going up in the SEC title game against Georgias and Alabamas that were 12 levels ahead of everybody at that time. And Florida is one of those fan bases that's, we talked about TCU. When they're good, they assume that's their rightful place. And the hierarchy that they don't understand. And so their biggest mistake right now, and I think they're doing it again. Dude, Billy Napier last year was 8-5. That was supposed to be his, he hasn't done anything year. So he goes 8-5. And then they get rid of him this year, even after a loss. After beating a top 10 team, or I think Texas was back at 10. They might have been in 11, but you know what I mean? A highly ranked team in Texas at home. Florida's problem right now is they've got to stop firing people. I mean, Jim McElwain made 2 SEC title games, fired. Dan Mullen makes 2 SEC title games, fired. What else do you want? Steve Spurrier's not doing it anymore, folks. I'm sorry. I know y'all want him to. It's time to understand you've got to let a coach cook for a few years.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the hyper-competitive SEC, you're going to need them to develop a reputation, a culture, and I feel bad for Napier. I mean, I think he was on the right track. Just needed a quarterback, but
and hang on, I always forget where it's at. Nope. Nope. Where is it? Nope.
Well, now
There we go.
To be fair,
Everybody thought Legway was the answer, just like the Michigan quarterback. Everybody thought he's the answer. And then when he's not, they all point to the coach, and it's like, well, maybe everybody was just wrong on the development of a guy. And that's nothing against Legway. Legway has shown some really good hell against Texas, man, on one foot at times, making plays that against a good Texas defense. I don't know, man. It's the thing. I always call it the Houston conundrum. They get rid of Major Applewhite because they felt that they were tired of winning only 9 games. And then you bring in somebody, and okay, well, you're not going to win 9 games. You're going to win 4 games. How do you like that? You don't always get better by making that move. And I think Florida has got Texas was in the same way. Texas, hell, even when they made the move to Sark from Herman, I was like, okay. I mean, Herman kind of brought Texas back. Yeah, they'd had a down year the year he was let go, but I mean, that was a lot of weird injuries and a lot of close games and just bad luck, and they still weren't terrible by any stretch. Anyway, all right, let's move on to Week 12 matchups, and let's start with the marquee matchup of the week. Everybody is talking about it. UTEP versus, no, I'm kidding. Texas 7-2, 11th in the nation, taking on Georgia for the 3rd time in a calendar year. Saturday, 6:30 p.m. Athens is going to be thumping. This is going to be a fun game. I'm saying it now. Texas wins by 2 touchdowns.
Of course you'd say Texas is going to win.
No.
2 touchdowns. That's pretty ballsy right there.
Now, admit it. If I think Texas is going to lose, I say it. I'm not. I don't think. I mean, everybody has a bias, and we try not. I don't think I have bias. I simply think Texas is playing really good football right now. I think Georgia is an 8-1. That's a lot of not smoke and mirrors because there's still talent, but this isn't Georgia of last year. And even in the 2 games that they beat Texas's defense played well. It was the offense that struggled. I don't think Georgia's defense is that good this year. I think Texas right now, as long as Ryan Wingo can play, and that's going to be a question. He hurt his thumb against Vanderbilt. The bye week came at the perfect time for them because they need him to be the number 1, because then that allows Mosley to be the number 2, and then that just completely, it just makes so many more weapons. I really do. I think Texas wins the game.
I'm going to also say that mainly because Texas is coming off a bye. They've had some time to prepare. Georgia, they're coming off a road win against Mississippi State, which is this year has been really tough to play in. And I agree, they could afford a loss, which I can't believe I'm saying that now in college football. But yeah, in 2025, an 8-1 team that's number 5 in the country can afford a loss even at home. Texas needs to win way more than Georgia does.
Yes.
When I see games like this, especially in the pros, you see the team that's favored, which Georgia is, make some mental mistakes. They don't come in as motivated. I think Texas is going to come out. I think Texas is going to jump out to about a 17-0 lead, but I think Georgia will make it close. I think Texas wins 28-24.
I could see that easily, and I agree. If Texas is going to win, they need a quick jump to it. Look, Aggie fans, I promise you, I'm not just saying this because I'm a Longhorn fan. I'm saying this because this is the conference you're in. This is the definition of a trap game. You've got a very talented South Carolina team that came into this year as a possible dark horse national championship, make the playoffs team with a quarterback that's electrifying. He got hurt early. I still don't think he's 100%. They still have talent, but they're 3-6. They're going into Texas A&M 9-0. The reason I feel that this could be a trap game is this is an 11 a.m. start. This is not Aggies at 6 p.m. I'm not saying that the fan base is bad at 11. It's just, you saw it when we went to the game. There is it's weird starting a college game at 11 a.m. in Texas. It's like, man, I just had a coffee and eggs. Worst eggs I've ever had, but still had coffee and eggs. I'm not ready for this. But at the end of the day, I think A&M's too good for them. I think this is one of those South Carolina, kind of like the LSU-South Carolina game last year. South Carolina jumps up like 14, 17, nothing, but then A&M wins and wins going away like 42-17.
I think A&M wins by double digits for sure. I like what they did this past week against Missouri, where they didn't stop running the ball. They had a really good running day, but most of those yards came in the second half. And it was just because they were relentless. They just did not quit. I think that's going to probably be a copy and paste for this game against South Carolina. They'll be okay in the running game, but they're going to have some explosive plays with Craver and Concepcion. And they'll pull away in the second half. They'll have a couple of big runs. I almost think it's going to almost play out the exact same way as the Missouri game. So I think A&M is probably going to win by probably about 3 touchdowns, 41-20.
All right, let's go around the country. We've got a huge one. Oklahoma 7-2 at Alabama 8-1 Sunday, 2:30 p.m. I think Alabama ends up boat racing Oklahoma.
I think it's going to happen too. I mean, Oklahoma, I think they were overly ranked, but man, think about it. You got this game at 2:30, Texas, Georgia at 6:30. You got the A&M game at 11. I think I might just stay on my couch all weekend long watching a great list of college football, and then the next day I'll watch a whole bunch of Red Zone. It's great, man.
Yeah, no, it's a really good one. You got Notre Dame 7-2 at Pittsburgh, 7-2, 11 a.m. Give me Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame is criminally underrated. I know they have the 2 losses. I know one of them being to a team that has kind of collapsed, but the other one was to A&M, and that was a 1-point game. And I think Notre Dame is as good as their ranking.
Yeah, and I think Pittsburgh's good as well. I love their uniforms. But, yeah, I think Notre Dame, they need to get back into the playoffs. Marcus Freeman's becoming a hot candidate in the coaching circuits. Rumors LSU, rumors really everywhere. That's
Arkansas, Auburn, Florida. He's literally popping up in all of them.
And what he's able to do at a school that kind of limits his ability to, recruit as well as he could. I think Notre Dame will win. I think they go ahead. Are you going to say something?
Well, no, I want to ask you, though, if he leaves, that would now mean the 2 last coaches for Notre Dame, which Notre Dame is supposed to be considered a plus job. Is it now not? If he also leaves to go somewhere else? I don't think he's going to go anywhere. Marcus Freeman bleeds Notre Dame. I think he wants to stay there. And I think the only reason Brian Kelly left was LSU just offered him stupid money. Speaking of, I love how he sent a letter. I don't know if you saw this. He sent a letter to LSU last week reminding them, hey, y'all are paying me all of that. I mean, if you want to talk a deal, I will listen, but you're basically paying me all of that. And good for him. Everybody's mad at him for that. Blame LSU. Blame A&M for the Jimbo Fisher deal. Blame the schools. That the LSU governor, or the LSU governor, Louisiana governor's all pissed at Brian Kelly. Don't be mad at Brian Kelly. That's capitalism, baby. He went and got his bag. But I just love the fact he sent a letter. I just want to remind you, y'all owe me all of it. But you have to start to ask, if Marcus Freeman leaves, Is Notre Dame now not an A+ job anymore?
I think the religion part kind of caps them somewhat, but this is a team that still made it to the championship game last season.
I'll disagree with you about that because Notre Dame and BYU is actually the same way. The school is religious, but you don't have to be religious to be on the team. That there's not a. In fact, with BYU, it's a little bit more because they do the whole Mormon. What do you call it? God trip for a year, and they come back and they're 35.
The missionaries,
missionary positions. They all go out and they come back and that's why their basketball team's always really salty. It'll be like, BYU today playing Utah. Utah has 3 17-year-olds. BYU has a 37-year-old. He worked 15 years in accounting. He retired and now he's playing basketball.
Hey, BYU has the #1 recruit playing, and he's a stud.
I know. That's why I brought him up. BYU's really good at basketball. I'm actually.
There was a time where they were ranked a few years ago really high, but their star player. Because
Jimmy Fredette or something?
No, it wasn't him. But yeah, Jimmy Fredette was a great player for them. But I'm talking about another guy. He apparently got caught sleeping with some lady.
Oh yeah, he transferred.
And I think they were ranked #1 or something like that. And after that, he got suspended, and they just kind of tanked that season.
Yeah, see, Notre Dame doesn't do that. No, I do know that. Notre Dame doesn't have those kind of, religious rules on the team. I just wonder though, like if he does leave, does that not? We starting to not? Because Notre Dame to me feels like a place I'd want to coach at. If you go 6-5, they're going to still put you in the playoff conversation because you're Notre Dame. That's all I'm saying. Let's see real quick. Iowa 6-3 at USC 7-2 Saturday 2:30. This feels like the game where Iowa wins on the road 19-9.
And funny thing is USC has a sort of outside playoff shot.
They have a path.
Yeah, they've hey. Riley's been doing pretty good. This is not the best USC team we've seen, but they just keep winning. They win some of these games a little closer than I would be comfortable with. But
they play defense, though.
Yeah,
that's
they got that good D.
Yeah. Got that good D. All right, and then we'll finish out the college side. South Florida 7-2, Navy 7-2. Again, mainly because the college side we're Texas State centric. This is a big game for SMU, and it's a big game for SMU because either one of them losing helps. I mean, they're fine either way, but it'll start kind of help break up that order. I mean, not SMU. I meant UNT. It'll start to help break up that hierarchy at the top to where pieces start to fall into place. UNT still has a path through the playoffs.
Yeah, they still have a path. South Florida losing helps with that. But I was looking at the rankings, and Sunbelt might get some love because James Madison, I think, is the highest ranked group of 5 team. They're at number 24. South Florida is number 25. So
a team that did not move to D1 till 3 years ago, could be a hypothetical into the playoffs. Now, in saying that, they would get absolutely boat raced if they make the playoffs. I mean, I think a UNT, because of their offense and their dynamic ability for big plays, could make games close-ish.
Again, North Texas only had 3.5 minutes of bad football all season. That's the difference between them being, undefeated right now.
Yep. All right. That's the college side. Let's turn our attention to the NFL Week 10. First, let's go ahead and let's get through all the sad stuff. Let's start with Paul Tagliabue. That came out Sunday that former NFL commissioner Paul Tagliabue, 84 years old, died of heart failure complications by Parkinson's disease. I mean, if there's somebody that you want to put as why the NFL exploded the way they did, it's Paul Tagliabue. I know Pete Rozelle did a ton. Don't get me wrong. Pete Rozelle set the table. Paul Tagliabue carried that and continued the building of the art. And you and I, we're way different than everybody else. I don't hate commissioners just because they're commissioners. I think the NFL for the last 40 years have actually had pretty darn good commissioners to do what they're supposed to do. And people need to understand a commissioner is not there to govern over the owners. He is hired by the owners. yes, they will accept his punishment because they understand what comes around goes around. Again, you and I have talked about it. We will do a video maybe this offseason about how I feel the NFL royally screwed Dallas and Washington back in that lockout weird year where there was a no CBA. And honestly, Jerry Jones and Daniel Snyder's could have taken them to court. Why didn't they? Because they understand how the game works. They understand that what comes around goes around. But I think Paul Tagliabue was a wonderful commissioner.
During his reign, you saw free agency bloom, salary cap, Cowboys dynasty, Fox becoming a major network in the football world. A lot of advancements, a lot of bad uniforms came out in the mid to late 90s, but I'm not going to blame that on him necessarily. The game really blossomed and expanded and became the number. I mean, it was becoming, or probably was already the number one sport in the U.S., but it was definitely the number one sport by the time Tagliabue left.
Yeah, he solidified what Pete Rozelle did, and so we salute him. And then also, of course, the most tragic 24-year-old Cowboys defensive lineman Marshawn Kneeland commits suicide. We don't know all the details. Apparently, someone had called saying that they wanted a welfare check at his house. Where I get confused is, I think from what I understand, he ran from the cops then. They tried to pursue him. They lost him. He apparently hit a truck, and where he wrecked was actually right at my wife's exit for work, like literally where she gets off, Warren off of the tollway in Frisco. Some people have tried to make this where it was like the Jeff Lom situation where Houston, where he wrecked, and for whatever reason, well, Jeff Lom is because he killed his best friend, but for whatever reason he wrecked and he panicked. This sounds more like he was already in the throes of some kind of mental issue. And it just, I mean, it blows your mind because literally his biggest shining moment was Monday. We were doing a live watch of it when Sam Williams' face mask blocked the punt and Marshawn Kneeland recovered it in the end zone. And it was so funny, or not funny, but we were talking about how smart he was because you see so many times a big lineman will just dive at the ball once in the end zone and it gets kicked out and it's a safety. Now, you could say, hey, at the end of the day, that can make it better because it's a 9-point possible play. But what he did was he was running to the ball, he broke down and then just kind of sat back and fell on the ball, which allowed him to keep the ball. And then, boom, 2 days later, this happens. This is one of those. It's been a weird couple of weeks. We have a really good friend of ours whose fiance got killed. They go out to Hawaii to celebrate and possibly get married. And then 2 hours in, they have a car wreck. He dies. So I'm already in a weird headspace. And then this happens, dude. This is just one of those things that it's a kick in the nuts.
Yeah, it's tough, man. This guy had a lot to live for. He lost his mom a year ago. I just don't think he shook it.
That's what a family member said, that people don't understand how close they were. And she died suddenly, and she was 45. So, I mean, it wasn't, it was one of those that came out of nowhere. And apparently he just never quite was able to get over that.
It's very sad. I mean, you hear what Micah Parsons said, just how great of a teammate he was when Micah was in Dallas. The NFL did a stand-up job. They had everybody in every game do a moment of silence. I saw it in the Berlin game on Sunday with Atlanta and Indianapolis. I thought it was pretty stand-up, and it's kind of a good way to use it to ask people, hey, if you're having those thoughts, NFL has, they promote a suicide hotline, and it's tough, man. It's 24. His whole life was ahead of him. I don't know, man. That's just no words. Just
it sucks. I mean,
like you always wonder, like, what could you do?
Yeah.
Like, could you have answered the call? Like, could you stop playing your game or stop scrolling on Facebook reels to just answer your friend's call because maybe they need something? They're just feeling comfortable talking to you about it. I don't know. It's sad.
Point. That's a good point. And so he passes and dude, the fans, are assholes. A couple of Cowboy defensive players, Sam Williams being one of them, came out where people were DMing them saying, hey, maybe this will spark you as a defense. Why don't y'all play for him? Speaking of NFL, anybody famous, turn off your damn DMs, okay? Don't take direct messages from fans. That's stupid. I know you want to foister this like, hey, you know, I'm one of y'all and all, but people are shitty. And you bear some responsibility of the shit you receive if you keep your DMs open. I'm sorry. That's just the way I feel. But still, quit being assholes, people. All right. Do you want to talk the trade or the firing first?
Let's do the trade since that happened earlier.
All right. The Jets, of course, a huge trade with the Colts. They give the Colts Sauce Gardner after just signing the Gardner to a big extension in the offseason. The Colts give up a lot. But I think people are really overestimating what they gave up. It's not like Sauce Gardner's a one-year rental. This is a guy that still got years left. And I did like what the Athletic said, because you and I have said this many times over the last couple of years. Did they give up too much for a shutdown corner in an era where there really isn't a shutdown corner anyway? The game is just different. Hey, against Atlanta, he looked great. He almost had an interception at one point. He had a couple deflections, yet he still gave up a touchdown. That's the NFL now, man. When you spread these athletes out like they do now, from inline, sideline to sideline. Check us out each and every week. When you do that, even the great Deion Sanders would not be a shutdown corner in today's era. I get that point, but for the Colts, I think this was more of a, hey, we're getting a guy that's going to be good for at least 2 or 3 more years, and we're telling the locker room we're all in.
Yeah, I like the move for both teams. I really like it for the Jets more, but the only knock on the Jets is, are they going to make the right decisions with – it's the same thing with the Cowboys too. Are they going to make the right decision with these draft picks? I love the trade for the Jets. I think the Colts solidified their weakness, which was their secondary, with getting Sauce Gardner. There's 27 teams in the NFL that don't have a shutdown corner. So I can't even name 5 right now off the top of my head, but that's how rare a shutdown corner is. And that's what they're getting with Sauce Gardner. Kudos to the Colts. Really good kudos to the Jets, who had their second straight win this weekend. Not because of their offense, but special teams did really well for them.
Dude, I was going to say this during the college part, and I know every week there are big special teams play, but if you look at the college big games in the NFL, everybody, it was just a big special teams game. Just real quick, what he's talking about, the Jets at one point basically had 5 yards of total offense and 14 points because they had a kickoff return for a touchdown and then a punt return for a touchdown. Scott Hansen was a little confused. He kept saying that they had 2 touchdowns. There's Scott, I love you, but if you had a punt return, that means you had the ball at one point and gave Cleveland the ball, and then Cleveland punted it back to you. He got that part wrong, but still amazing by the Jets. And then, of course, the Jets did another huge trade as they send to the Cowboys Quinnen Williams. Dallas gives up next year's their pick and a second round this year. But they've already got a second round this year. And if they don't re-sign George Pickens, they will get an allocation pick. And with the season he's having, it's going to be a first, second, or third. I still think they're going to try to find a way to re-sign him, but I'm just saying, everybody's making a big deal about they're giving him their Cowboy pick. That's going to be the highest pick next year. Dude, we have no clue about what next year. I mean, seriously. Look, you and I have talked about this. This Dallas team is not terrible. They're not the Jets. They're not the Browns. They're 3 defensive players away from being where they were a few years ago, a 12-5 team. So we don't know what that 2027 pick is. For me, I absolutely love this trade. He's still young enough. No, he's not 3 years ago just almost an Aaron Donald type, but he's still a guy that's going to make plays in your defensive line with Overshown coming back, with Kenny Clark right next to him. I mean, dude, and then what's his name? I'm sorry, I forget his name. The rookie from Boston College who's starting to
Donovan Ezeraku.
Yeah, Donovan Ezeraku's starting to show up. Sam Williams has at least made some plays.
And you still got Odigizua.
You still got Odigizua. I mean, you've got a situation where you could bring out Ozua and put him on the end. Run a 3-line. Dude, Clark, Williams.
There's some potential there. He's only 28.
Draft these linebackers. Let's go 3-4, boys. Let's go back 3-4. I'm serious. Did I not tell you this when we had Micah last year when they were making I said, just go 3-4. Just make Micah Parsons be your outside linebacker. Get a nose tackle. Let's beef it up. I just like the path Dallas is on now. I'm not talking about for this year. Even though I know they lost to Arizona, but this whole tough gauntlet of a schedule that they're about to hit ain't looking as tough as it was. But specifically for next year, I think Jerry Jones, with the whole Parsons thing, I think he might have done the right thing, dude. I legitimately believe that.
Yeah, I don't mind the Parsons deal. It's the same thing like I told you before with Luka. I don't mind the trade as long as you get equal value. At the time of the trade, the Parsons deal was the best value he could possibly get. Getting 2 first-round picks, that was the best you could do, and Kenny Clark, which is fine.
But doesn't this now become they traded Micah Parsons for a first-round pick, Kenny Clark, and Quinnen Williams? And you could also make the case that, and I know they traded for him before all this happens, but they don't trade for George Pickens if they're going to keep Parsons, because I think that's one of the things, I get your point. I agree with you. I still think you should have kept him this year. Again, especially after the very first thing he said at the Green Bay Packer concert was like, our conference was like, yeah, I was going to play. I would never sit out. But I think they've turned, unlike what Nico has done with the Mavericks since they did Luka. And look, Cooper Flag fell into place. That don't count. You don't get credit for drafting what everybody else will draft. That's just how it works. But they have not done anything right with everything after Luka. Dallas, at least on paper, and we'll see, it might not work, but Dallas on paper, the Cowboys, have done everything right with their next moves after trading Micah Parsons.
Yeah, like I told you in person and on the show, if you can get a generational talent and trade them for 3 players, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
Because now I bring up the Danielle Hunter thing with Minnesota. It wasn't a trade, but they somehow converted Danielle Hunter to Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, and Dallas Turner. Perfect. Micah Parsons, to your point, got a first-round pick. The net effect.
Yeah,
my CPA accounting mind would say the net difference would be you get rid of Micah Parsons, but you get a first-round pick, you get Kenny Clark, you get Quinnen Williams. I'm happy with that, because having a superstar is great, but like in Cleveland's case with Myles Garrett, their defense is great, but like if you can't have a complete team, then what's the point? Like you're just edging, but like you're not going to get to the promised land because you just don't have a complete team.
Exactly.
Dallas now has the opportunity to have a complete team, probably one of the better defensive lines they've had in years with Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams, Odigizua, Zaraku. I like it. We just have to see what happens over the next 2 years with the draft picks.
Yeah, I agree. All right, and then of course the big breaking news. We had him as number 1 on the hot seat. I thought maybe he had saved himself with Jackson Dart and them playing well. But at the end of the day, oddly enough, what got Brian Daboll fired was the Giants just can't keep leads this year. Had a lead against the Cowboys. They blew it. Had a lead against Denver and historically blew it. And then yesterday had a lead against Chicago. Looked like they were going to win. And then they lose that one. I don't feel bad for Brian Daboll, but I kind of do, because in those behind the scenes thing, when it came to like Barkley and stuff, it was the GM that was making those moves, not Daboll. But at the end of the day, I think Daboll is going to be one of those that he's a really good coordinator, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that's probably his ceiling.
I mean, he's credited with unlocking Josh Allen's capabilities in Buffalo. That's the reason why he even got the Giants job. Great rookie year, coach of the year, 9-7-1, made the playoffs, won the playoff game. He just couldn't capitalize off that rookie year. Like, he had a lot of health that year. Andrew Thomas became an all-pro tackle, but Andrew Thomas got hurt. They could never add additional depth at wide receiver. So Daniel Jones was running for his life. Like, I didn't know Daniel Jones could be this good this season. What he's doing with the Colts. Yeah, they just could never. For an offensive-minded guy, he would expect him to be able to, with Saquon Barkley, be able to establish some form of great offense. He just could never do it in his 4 seasons.
Yep. So now the Giants, it's so crazy how you can go all the way back to 1988 to 2014. They were the bastion of consistency. Yeah, they'd have down years, but they'd always bring it back up. You could always see the ideas. And that doesn't mean they made perfect hires. They hired Ray Handley, one of the worst coaches in the NFL, but they were able to always rectify that. And then since 2015, man, they have been one of the worst franchises. Same owner. Same people. That's why I go with the whole, like, we've had this, back and forth about Jerry Jones. Yeah, general managers and owners matter, but at the end of the day, you got to hit the drafts. You got to hit your coaching hires. You've got to be consistent with that. And sometimes even the great ones aren't. And for the Giants, they're once again looking for a new head coach. I have no clue where they go now because I don't even know if Brian Daboll is considered a taskmaster. I mean, he was always angry, but I don't know if he was considered a players coach, a taskmaster. Do you go defense? I mean, the defense is pretty solid for the Giants. That's the thing that's keeping them in games. I know you go back to the Dallas game, but if you actually go back to the Dallas game, it's not like the Dallas offense had 600 yards. They had short fields because the Giants offense was sucking after they had scored a lot and allowed Dallas to score. So it'll be interesting to see what the Giants do. All right. It's time for the favorite, worst, loved, hated segment of the week. Best uniform games. And Noe, this was easily one of the top 3 uniform Sundays, as there was throwbacks, there was beauty. Even the odd ones like the Saints, the Saints, I will give y'all credit. Y'all know how to make the list. Either what the hell were you doing or holy crap, that looks good. But let's start at the top. The best one, easy, Raiders, Broncos. The Broncos uniform game was as much as they scored a 10. God, that was an ugly game, but it sure did look beautiful.
Yeah, for as good as that uniform game was, the actual game in-game content was pretty terrible. 10-7 Broncos. But yeah, they were their throwbacks. You thought this was going to be a blowout game. Were their throwbacks, they always win, which they did. But I mean, I don't know who this team is. They're 8-2. They have all this offensive talent, but they're just so inconsistent. Some weeks they look great. A lot of weeks they don't look great. They haven't had many blowouts this season. One was against the Cowboys, I know.
Is there a team that doesn't do that, though, this year? Every good team looks inconsistent. Every top team at times look like shit. I mean, I just realized that when you think about that. The Colts are a prime example. Colts are, I think, right now the number 1 seed in the AFC. Do you trust them in any way? I mean, yeah, they won against Atlanta, and to give them credit, they were in Germany, weird time frame, but once again, Daniel Jones didn't look his best. Now,
Well, now, Noe, to be fair,
Atlanta's pass rush was living in the backfield on him. And I don't care what quarterback you are, you're going to struggle. And give, Taylor credit. We'll get there, but they have been very up and down. Tampa Bay for 4 weeks looked like they would be world beaters, and now their offenses went to crap. New England, yeah, but I don't know. I don't really trust them as well. I'm trying to think of anybody else. Buffalo, I mean, look what just happened to them last week. The Rams may be the most trustworthy, but then you go back to what the hell happened 3 weeks ago when you let San Francisco beat you. Chalk it up to maybe it was a Thursday night, one of those weird things. So maybe we finally are in that NFL era where even the good teams at times look terrible.
It happens 1 or 2 games a season where a really good team just craps the bed, but Denver does it a lot this season. Thanks to their defense, they're 8-2. They're winning,
but their defense struggled to begin the year,
which a lot of great defenses like the '85 Bears and the 2000 Ravens, they both struggled to start the year. And they got into
Dallas Cowboys.
The who Cowboys?
That's what everybody tells me. So, yeah, our offense couldn't score 9 points a game. Why would the offenses come in and try to do too much? All right, Giants, Bears, that was a beautiful 10. Saints and Panthers. Saints, I will give it to you, dude. Y'all just need to run the all whites when you're on the road. The white helmet, the white jersey with that gold. The only thing I wish they would have done, I don't know if you can see the helmet here. Oh, you can. Is the fleur-de-lis on the white is gold. Outline it with black. Just to give it a little bit more of that little 2D, 3D look. But that and the Panthers, dude, I will say it. I want to keep saying that the Panthers are an outdated look because they look like the 90s, but they look like the 90s in the good way. The stripes all work, the color scheme. And yes, I'm a sucker for I love how everybody takes the same blue and it's Houston blue, Tennessee blue, Carolina blue, whatever you want to call it. That blue with that black and that silver, just a great look. Bills, Dolphins. Hey, Dolphins, when you go all white, you go all right. And I'm all white with that. Wait, what? And the Bills blue, man. The best thing they ever did was went back to the white helmet. Patriot Buccaneers an 8. Very nice. I kind of knocked the Bucks. I'm not a big fan of the white with the pewter pants. I like it when they wear the all white. But I got to admit, the Patriots kind of growing on me with that look.
Well, especially when they play against a team that has an opposite look. And it was a big-time game. I just like the look of it. It was aesthetically pleasing. The game was aesthetically pleasing. One of the best games of the weekend was one of the most highly anticipated games of the weekend.
Dude, Travion Henderson is really making this Patriot team all of a sudden like, folks, they had 17 years, took a 5-year hiatus, and holy crap, they might be back. Let's see. Browns, Jets. I actually give that a high. You give it an 8. I give it a 10. I love both of their looks. I have no problem with the 8s, just little things. But I keep saying it over and over. The Jets have 2 great looks: the white helmet look, the green helmet look. All you need to do is every 15 years switch them out, and you're always awesome. Cleveland. I know our friend John in the sports doesn't like their logo. What would a brown logo be? A dookie? I mean, hey, if they would do that, I would all respect in the world. Just have a Baker Mayfield taking a dump on the helmet. But still, what they have, I think they look good. Falcons, Colts. Hey, when you put the Falcons in the whites with that black helmet on top, dude, I really wish they'd wear the red helmet one time with the all whites. That would look good as well. That's a 7. I agree. Jaguars, Texans 7. Jaguars a 9.5. The Texans a 3. We bring it up to a 7. Don't you agree?
Yeah, that was. I mean, the Jaguars when they went back to their old look in 2018, you and I loved it. We were at the draft in Dallas or in Arlington, and we noticed that, and we were just very happy. We were giddy. And
again, the Texans. When I first turned on, I was like, wait, why is Atlanta playing 2 games today? Oh, that's Houston. Sorry, Texans. I don't know how you've bastardized the Bears and the Falcons and somehow. But anyway, Cardinals, Seahawks, same thing. The Cardinals a 9.5. The Seahawks, you suck. It's time to get rid of those jerseys, but we'll bring it to a 6 for an average. All right, let's start with Houston because, dude, Houston, I was right when the Jaguars scored their last points. I almost was going to message you the Texans season's done. I think D'Amico Ryans might be fired because it looked like they were about to just completely crash. CJ Stroud's out. Davis Mills he wasn't terrible, but he threw a couple bad passes in that first half. Jacksonville looked like what Jacksonville can do when they're good. And then Jacksonville remembered, oh, wait, we're Jacksonville. Houston scores 26 points in the fourth quarter. It's a stunning win, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I think it's the season-saving win for the Texans.
I think so too. I mean, there was every reason to lose this game. Jacksonville was 5-3. They were up 29-10 going into the fourth quarter. You have Davis Mills as your quarterback, which you tried for one season in 2022. Hence the reason for drafting CJ Stroud. This should not have happened, but it happened. The Jaguars had a similar situation when they played at Cincinnati. They were up big, and then let Cincinnati come back and win.
When Joe Burrow hurt his arm.
Yeah. So
speaking of that, did you hear about him?
Joe Burrow is in the 21-day window. He is starting to practice with the Bengals with a possible return date very soon.
And they're hanging around.
They're scoring points. Thank you, Joe Flacco. They've had some back-to-back embarrassing losses to the Jets and the Bears, but they are scoring points. So if they can somehow stay in contention, if Pittsburgh can continue losing to make the AFC North division very attainable, which right now the Steelers are in the 4th seed. They lead the North. They're 5-4. The Ravens are 4-5. I think the Bengals are 3-6. So, yeah, very attainable right now. It is not over for them. So if the Bengals can somehow scratch and claw another win or two, maybe Burrow comes back and this season's not over. They look at the remaining schedule. They play at the Steelers this weekend. They play the Patriots. That'll be tough. Apparently, the Patriots are for real. They play at the Ravens. They play at the Bills.
Hang on, I agree with you that the Patriots are real. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like they're unbeatable forces. I mean, they had a couple blowout wins when they beat the Titans and the Browns. They win by 1 against the Falcons. They do go into Tampa Bay and beat a good Tampa Bay team by 6. I'm not saying the Patriots won't beat the Bengals, but I'm just saying it's not like the Patriots are the Patriots of old, where you just every Saturday or every Sunday in a pick 'em, you just pick the Patriots because you're going to be right 14 times. So yeah, I think the Bengals have got to be excited about where they are, all things considered.
Yeah, and they control their own destiny. That's why I was listening out the schedule, because they play the Ravens twice. They play the Browns. They play the Steelers. They could definitely go on a run. Maybe 9 wins will win the division, and they are still in contention to get to 9 wins.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And we talked about that after he got hurt, that they winning that Jacksonville game after he got hurt might end up being the thing that gets them into the playoffs. All right, let's go to the best games of the week outside of the Houston one. That was one of the best ones. Indianapolis and Atlanta, they show Germany how football is supposed to be played. It was a fun game. Indianapolis survives in overtime, 31-25. Jonathan Taylor continues his, hey, what about me at MVP? He goes for 244 yards, 3 touchdowns. I know people want to try to knock these type of wins for Indy. Like, why aren't you beating them worse? I contend this is how you know they're a real team. They had just come off of a tough loss against the Steelers where they looked terrible, and they go into Germany on the road for both teams, and they win. I know Daniel Jones threw an interception. He had a few fumbles, but he also threw a touchdown. He threw for 255 yards. But more importantly, that running game is just awesome.
And Daniel Jones was gutsy, man. He had a busted lip. There was video of him bleeding from the mouth. So, yeah, he was getting harassed by the Falcons defense, but, thank God for Jonathan Taylor. I think like I was telling you before, I think the Falcons defense was just gearing up to stop the pass, and there was so many open lanes for Taylor to run. He got the electrifying 83-yard touchdown and then the overtime winner.
Let me ask you this. Is Raheem Morris on the hot seat now?
Yes, because they're way too talented to be, 3-7? 3-6, 3-7?
Now, the thing that helps them is here's their next 3 games. The Panthers at home, the Saints on the road, the Jets on the road. I know the Panthers did what they did to them in Carolina a month ago, but Carolina's not where they're at. Hey, Saints, you and I said it. Their record is not indicative of that team. The Saints are a pretty damn salty team, but in saying that, the Falcons have got to go 3-0 in those. You beat the Panthers, beat the Saints, beat the Jets. You're back at 6-6. You've then got the Seahawks, the Buccaneers, and the Cardinals, the Rams, and the Saints to finish your season. You've got to be 6-6 going there. I don't know if he survives if they don't make the playoffs, unless they go 9-7 and miss on those weird. I like Raheem Morris, but and I know Arthur Smith wasn't the right one, but Atlanta needs an offensive coach. Atlanta has too much talent on the offensive side to not be putting up 30 points a game.
Drake London's turning into a wide receiver 1. Kyle Pitts is trying to become a tight end 1. I think Penix is good enough to lead a team into the playoffs. They have the running game. They just need a coach that can use all that talent I just said to the best of their abilities. I don't know if Raheem Morris is the right coach or the offensive coordinator is the right coordinator, but Atlanta defensively looks good. I think just being consistent on offense is what they need going into 2026. I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think a coaching change will need to happen for any positive outcome for the Falcons to happen. So I don't think it's going to happen this year, but this will be a team to look out for next season.
But we've been saying that for like the last 3 seasons. That's the problem. New England outlast Tampa, and I mean, dare I say, a possible Super Bowl rematch coming up.
They did the New England thing where they scored to end the first half and scored to open the second half.
And that was the difference in the game right there, the Bill Belichick effect. Trevion Henderson again, 2 long runs. The Buccaneer defense. Okay, we all know how bad the Dallas defense is. The Buccaneers defense did something this week that hasn't been done in 70 years. They gave up 4 plays of 50 yards or more. So
When the Cowboys defenses of other years have not done that.
or the Dallas defense of this year, because I could have swore, man, a couple weeks ago that was like every play was 30 yards. But I mean, think about that. In 4 plays, they gave up 200 yards of offense. That for all the talk about Baker Mayfield, and we want to make the Buccaneers about Baker Mayfield, the defense got old. They've tried to retool. They've done a pretty solid job of retooling, but they're starting to have injuries. They're starting to have issues. And as great and fun as Baker Mayfield is, you don't want Baker Mayfield throwing the ball 45 times in a shootout because and you really don't want any quarterback. I will say that right now. There are very few quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. We're talking about top 5 of all times that I want throwing the ball 45 times. Just because law of averages in a league with great athletes, you're going to start making mistakes. And so for the Buccaneers to be anything more than maybe win a first-round game and then get beat in the second round, they're going to have to figure out how to play better defense.
Yeah, and the thing is, like with Atlanta, Tampa has a defensive-minded head coach, but their defense is not really doing anything. It almost feels like they need to just flip-flop coaches or flip-flop. Like the Atlanta offense needs to go to Tampa.
He tried that in Tampa once. It didn't work out too well for him.
Yeah, it did not. Yeah, because Raheem Morris was the former Tampa Bay.
We need Bruce Arenas to go to Atlanta. Oh. I know he don't
too old now, but man,
he don't want to. He's doing the podcast thing. He's getting to tell all these stories. But man, Bruce Arenas with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier and Drake London and Kyle. God, Bruce, come on, get out, come back, buddy. Man, that'd be awesome.
You can get a whole new wardrobe.
He's the blackest white guy you've ever met.
Hey, and he would have the Falcons wearing the red helmet with the black jerseys at home. That is their cleanest all-time look ever.
I agree with you there. All right, the Giants, again, they lose. They were winning, and then Jackson Dart got a concussion, and then Russell Wilson came in, and they lost. Not necessarily on Russell Wilson's fault, but that's the narrative. Caleb Williams really starting to become the quarterback people thought he would be. He ran for 63 yards and a touchdown. He threw for 220 yards. I know a lot of people, they get all enamored with the nails and all that, and he's not a loud leader. But you watch him, that offense follows him. That offense, that's their leader. And Chicago, dude, if Chicago can get a home wild card playoff game in January when there's a little bit of snow on the ground, I don't want to be playing them. That defense is underrated. They're underrated. Again, I feel like we're saying this about every team. They've got to figure out the consistency of week to week. If they can figure that out, dude, the NFC North, holy crap. We might have 4 teams with winning records and one of them sitting at home in the playoffs.
Yeah. But Chicago 6-3. They look good. They got Kyle Monangai as a second running back, which is key in the Ben Johnson-led offense.
Dude, he's become the first running back. I mean, and DeAndre Swift is still looking good. DeAndre Swift had 2 runs of 20 yards yesterday, but Monangai just walks in like, hey, guys, I'm now the fantasy dude. My name's Doug Martin. Just call me Doug Martin. Let's go. I'm really impressed with what Ben Johnson's doing there.
R.I.P. Doug Martin. Yeah, and then Colson Loveland. He's starting to come on. He had a big game last week against Cincinnati. He had 4 catches of 55 yards in this one. I'm not saying he supplanted Cole Kmet as a number 1 tight end, but I'm just glad that Ben Johnson's finally starting to use Loveland more.
You're not saying that, but Cole Kmet's going to make a great tight end for another team next year.
And yeah, he's still a number 1 tight end. I'm not sure what team it'll be for, but he's really good.
I'll take Loveland over him, though, just because of youth, and he's more athletic. Cole Kmet's more of the traditional Jason Witten catch and fall down. Loveland will make you miss a tackle or 2. All right, the Jets beat Cleveland in the Who Doesn't Want the First Round Pick Bowl, 27-20. Again, we talked about earlier, the Jets' offense sucked, kickoff and a punt return. They get them 2 wins in a row. Okay.
I mean, look, Fields threw for a net 42 yards. They ran for a net 127. Breece Hall was their entire offense. It was a terrible showing. Browns defense, again, amazing, but in a loss. If they had some semblance of an offense, the Browns would be the number 1 team in the NFL. This defense is so legit. They're too legit to quit, some would say.
Hey. Myles Garrett, dude. You signed the contract.
Yeah.
Signed the contract, brother. You knew it was coming.
I was just about to say that, 100%.
Get Dallas to trade for you for a 7th round pick, we might take you. We got to try you out first. We got to see. I don't know if you're good enough to take over for Brandon Noble. Somebody's going, who?
Yeah.
You're a Cowboy fan if you know who Brandon Noble is. I'm just saying. Right now, hang on. You got to be honest. You can't look. Email the show, odtcnetwork@gmail.com, and tell us who Brandon Noble is. Don't cheat. Don't cheat. All right, let's go to the other games. Okay, we forgot to do this. Overall, a enjoyable Red Zone noon Sunday. When you have the Jets and Cleveland is one of the best games, it tells you it wasn't the greatest. But honestly, that's only because that was a novelty because of the 2 touchdowns, the way the Jets scored. Let's go to the other games because some of these were supposed to be the good games. We'll start with you kind of met me. They literally said it today. Again, as long as Miami doesn't just completely not win another game, Miami beating Buffalo probably saved Mike McDaniel's job. He will probably be back next year. As they beat Buffalo 30-13, Miami's defense, 3 turnovers, 3 sacks. A-Chain runs for 2 touchdowns, has 225 total yards. This was a really impressive win. Yes, you can make the case, Buffalo turned the ball over, but this was Miami's defense causing turnovers after they traded away maybe their best defensive player. I will give McDaniel credit. Miami looks inspired.
They do look inspired. I don't know why they're playing so well, but the thing I noticed was the Bills, because they got a lot of flack for not making any trades at the deadline because their defense was lacking, especially the run defense. And see what happens here. Devin A-Chan gets 174 rushers and 2 touchdowns, and they get blown out. They had late touchdowns in the fourth quarter, but no, the Bills go into Miami, which they always struggle, and they get blown out.
Isn't it weird? The Bills, whenever they lose, they usually get their ass kicked. Or it's a classic overtime. There's no in between. And look, Josh Allen, every great quarterback, folks, is going to have these games. I contend, though, a lot of it was what Miami was doing defensively.
Yeah. Miami just came in with a great game plan. They weren't even trying to play keep away. They were just trying to play to their strength. They have an accurate left-handed quarterback. They have an explosive running back. They have an explosive receiver in Jalen Waddle that was kind of underused when Tyreek Hill came to Miami, and now he's the wide receiver 1 again.
You see where the Bills tried to trade for him?
Yeah. So, like what Terry's saying, Jalen Waddle was a person of interest for the Bills, who don't have a number 1 wide receiver, no matter who says otherwise. Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, solid 2s and 3 wide receivers. I would want them on my team, but they don't have a number 1 wide receiver. Jalen Waddle is a number 1 wide receiver. I know he doesn't look like one, but he does play like
he's one. Yeah, he's one. Hey, speaking of, listen to this. So the Dolphins, they now have on their schedule, after this win, first off, they've won 2 out of 3. They've got Washington next Sunday.
In Madrid, first game in Madrid, right?
I was wondering, like 8:30. So, I mean, and look, Washington, they're in disarray right now. They have the Saints, who I feel like the Saints will probably win this game because I think the Saints are, again, better than their record. And then they have the Jets. There is no reason why the Dolphins can't go into that Steelers game on December 15th on a 4-game winning streak and sitting at 6-7.
And the Steelers are no world beaters right now.
No.
Oh man, because the Dolphins have had a history the last few years of having these late season runs. Last year they had it when they started figuring, we have a tight end. Let's start throwing it to him. Man, they won't make the playoffs, but I could definitely see them having a respectable maybe 7-10 record to close out the season, which would be great considering where they were to start the season.
And they're not going to get rid of Tua unless somebody trades for him because of his contract hit. So if I'm Dolphins management, I'm like, all right, let's just run it back again. We've got enough talent. If we can draft well, I don't know their cap off the top of my head. If we can draft well, we get a couple players in an AFC North that's transitioning now. The Bills are still good, but they're not the cream of the crop. I think New England's the real deal. I think it's time to say Drake May is a good quarterback. I don't know if he's a top 5. I don't give a shit about all that. He's good enough to take this team to the playoffs. They're built really well. And I don't think the Dolphins are as far behind as people say. Now, in saying that, I could also see them losing all 3 of the next games because it's still the Dolphins and they're weird this year. Detroit showed that Washington just ain't right this year. You and I have called that. Detroit dominates 44-22. Jahmyr Gibbs scores 2 touchdowns. Jared Goff throws 3 more. As Dan Campbell took over play calling for the first time in his career. Like, he had never play called before at any position, yet he was a play call. I don't know how much it was him. Washington defense is really bad this year.
Washington, their defense is bad. There was a good game plan. Jameson Williams actually did something.
He was huge, dude.
Yeah, he was huge, and I don't know if that's because of Washington's defense or Dan Campbell favoring him, but we'll see against better competition. And Detroit doesn't have an easy schedule, so that's going to come up. Dan Campbell had a tough conversation with his offensive coordinator. It was very respectful, but this is probably the toughest coaching job or decision he's probably ever had to make because he respects his offensive coordinator. He likes him. It just wasn't working. They were not consistent. They had some great games, and then they just fell flat against like Kansas City and Green Bay. And then they had that dud against the Vikings. I feel this was the right decision, but I want to see how Dan Campbell does it against better competition because even in this game, he was so focused on the offense, he wasn't really a head coach. He was just being off as a coordinator essentially instead of being a head coach. So I don't know how that's going to play out throughout the rest of the season, but for one game against a team that's kind of reeling, he looked good.
I mean, it's not like against the Vikings, the offense was terrible. 300 yards of offense. Jared Goff had 2 touchdowns. He threw for 284 yards. David Montgomery had 40 yards on the ground with a touchdown. I don't know. I get it, and I'm glad that they had a good thing, but I feel like Dan Campbell was and you're right, he was respectful about it, but I think you just chopped the offensive coordinator at the knees. You can't bring him back next year unless Dan Campbell's calling plays the rest of the way. And maybe that's what Dan Campbell's always wanted to do, and that's fine. Hey, you've earned that right. You have rebirthed the franchise. You've taken them to an NFC title game. You lose last year in an upset. You get that revenge win this year. I'm not saying you're wrong, Dan Campbell, because everything you do right now works, but I felt like this was way too quick of a pull. Maybe this wasn't the offensive coordinator he really, really wanted. Maybe the guy he really, really wanted, was unattainable, and he doesn't dislike this guy. Again, you're right. He was very respectful about how he did it. I don't know. I feel like that was maybe an unneeded thing. The Rams and Seattle, they win the NFC West round robin almost by exact scores. The Rams 42-26 over San Francisco. Seattle 44-22 over Arizona. DeMarcus Lawrence, who had been very quiet this year, had 2 fumble recovery touchdowns in the first half. I think the 4th player to do 2 in one game. Look, those are great, and there's nothing wrong. Fumble recoveries are awesome, but usually you're just in the right spot at the right time. DeMarcus Lawrence is still massively underplayed that contract for the most part. But I'm happy for him. Everybody laughed at him when he said, I'm going to a winner. And, hey, let's talk about it. Dude, Seattle and the Rams right now, in my opinion, are the 2 best teams in the NFC.
That is not an overreaction. I think they are. Seattle's issue last season with Mike McDonald was they were streaky. They'd win 4 in a row. They'd lose 3 or 4. They'd win 3 in a row. Yeah. That's just there was a problem. This year, they got a consistency at quarterback, which led to consistency everywhere else. They look scary good. That defense looks even better than it did last year. The Rams, Stafford, I don't know, but did he have a back injury? Was that just kayfabe? I think he's a wrestling term. Was he just lying? Because he's thrown 4 touchdowns 3 games in a row. I've never seen Stafford look this good, even in the with the Lion days where they had that crappy team, but he would just pull up video game stats.
Or even like the 2014 team, that was a really good playoff team that took Dallas to the mat, and you can make the case a controversial call. He was great that year. This is the thing that scares me if you're in an NFC contention. The Seattle Seahawks, known for home field advantage, are 3-2 at home. They're 4-0 on the road. you assume the home thing they will figure out. They'll get that right. In fact, these two teams on the road, a combined 8-1. Here's a funnier stat. Throw in San Francisco. Those three teams on the road, a combined 12-3. At home, a combined 9-5. That's kind of weird how that's worked out there in the NFC West. It also shows you, I think, in today's world, home field advantage is a little bit overrated at times now.
You know, I'm at the point where I kind of feel bad for the 49ers, which is weird for me to say that, but you know, they lost Nick Bosa. They lost, or not Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa. No, yeah, Nick Bosa. They lost Fred Warner, and now, like last week, they lost Michael Williams, their number 1 draft pick in this year's draft. This team is just so injured prone, and for some reason, Christian McCaffrey is healthy. He's their leading receiver, leading rusher, leading everything.
Everything for them, man.
And Mac Jones hasn't been bad. He actually had a pretty decent game. It's just the 49ers. It's just a lot of pressure to put on an offense when the opposing team's offense is going to score every single drive.
Yeah,
the Rams
is bad.
Yeah, the Rams didn't have a single penalty in this game. That's also another thing they had to overcome. It's just hard for the 49ers right now, man.
I think they're reaching a precipice of it might be time to try to do a rebuild. Not necessarily get rid of the coach, but you've got Purdy signed, so you've got him locked up. You've got McCaffrey for a couple years. You still got some pieces in place. Kittle's getting a year older. He's still good, but he's getting a year older. It's time for Trent Williams to move on. It's time to rebuild there and start getting under the cap. And they've got to figure out whether it be who they're drafting or what they're doing to practice-wise. There is, you know, we always joke 1-2 years that happens. When you're talking 4 or 5 years in a row where injuries just completely rack your team every year, you've got to figure out what that is. You know, you've got to
look and see what's been the one consistent thing during that time period and go after that. So,
exactly.
It's the same thing I say with the Cowboys. I'm just being objective here. Like, it's just math. Like, okay, you've had the same consistent issue for a long number of times. A lot of years. What has stayed the same?
Exactly.
That's probably the issue.
No, I totally agree. But even then, I don't know if you can really blame Shanahan. I mean, unless it turns out he's like Bud Kilmer from Varsity Blues, where he's like kicking them in the knee while they're down. Every week he has somebody, Nancy Kerrigan, 2 players, just, I want to see how tough you are. That actually sounds like something Dan Campbell would do. The New Orleans Saints went on the road and dominated Carolina, though the score didn't say that because, look, Shaw did throw for 2 touchdowns, but he's still not a good quarterback. And at New Orleans, you could kind of tell at the end, Kellen was like, oh, great, we won. Shit. But honestly, let's kind of talk about that, because you talk about the Jets, you talk about Cleveland, you talk about the Saints. They're all kind of in running for that number 1 pick. There really isn't oh my God, this is the number 1 guy. This isn't a high quarterback class. This is one of those years where I feel like the first round pick is going to be a hot potato and everybody's going to try to trade.
Yeah, just like last year, right? I believe last year, the year before, was a year where no one wanted that number 1 pick. I think 2026 could be the same. It's just determines like who's going to have that number 1 pick. I could definitely see it being traded out, though, for sure. I don't know. Oh, yeah, it was this past year because Tennessee got Cam Ward.
Yeah, it was year before. People wanted Cam Ward.
Well, who goes number 1 last season in 2024? Anyway, New Orleans has been competitive most of the – huh?
It was Caleb Williams.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think it was this season. I think –
I thought
because Cam Ward was the number 1 quarterback, but no one really felt that he should have been number 1 overall. 2023,
you had is Bryce or CJ. I think there was a lot of teams looking to move, at the time, because a lot of people thought Carolina at the time might move down. But anyway, we're talking about this. Sorry. That's going on a tangent.
Hey, Tyler Shuck played solid. Carolina has a decent defense. Shuck hit Olave, who was guarded by J.C. Horn for a long touchdown. Then he hit Juwan Johnson for another big touchdown. Carolina just was a victim of them reverting back to where they were last year and the year before, where they just can't make these conversions. Are you going to say something?
No, I agree. Bryce Young just continues to confound.
Yeah, he had won 4 games in a row at quarterback. This is his first loss in 5 games. I Carolina, I just don't know what to say about them. Canales was also dumbfounded. I remember him saying we kind of reverted back to what we were when I first got here.
Yeah.
But hopefully this is a blimp because I've seen what they've done through 10 games. They're 5-5, which is way better than they were last year. There's promise, but we got to start thinking, like, is Bryce Young just the big bust? Or maybe, I don't know. Maybe they need to figure out who their next quarterback is going to be next season because I feel like they're very limited. They have the running game. They have the offensive line. They have Tet McMillan. Xavier Legette, if he can start speaking English, maybe you have a wide receiver too. Jatavian Sanders is starting to get some looks right now at tight end. So there's a makings of a somewhat decent offense. They have a good defensive coordinator, improving defensive starting 11. So I really think quarterback's the position where they really need to massively improve on.
All
they,
right.
had, they had Baker and Sam Darnold 3 years ago. Just
defensive ends on the practice squad. All right. So Bryce Young on the year, he's 29th in yards. He's 20th in TDs. He's 29th in QBR. I don't care about QBR. It's too weighted to the fourth quarter, and that's great if you're in a game that matters. But if you dominate for 3 quarters, then you get weighted, hurt against you. Anyway, the one thing he has done is he's only thrown 7 interceptions. That's a solid. I ask you, is this one of those things where maybe it's time for them to take the shackles off and let him be an NFL quarterback? And if he can't make the throws, let's find out now. Look, I know it's great. You're 5-5. You'd won 4 in a row. Awesome, good, cool. But are you really a team that's going to get in the playoffs and do anything? So let's see what we can do. Let's start giving the ball to Bryce Young. And I'm not saying like stop running the ball, but let's stop having him throw for 120 yards, 228 yards, things like that in a game. It's time for him. Actually, here's his yardage over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. 198, 199, 138, 102, 124. He's not even doing that with a high completion percentage. He hasn't hit 70% in any of those. At some point, make him be a big boy quarterback, and let's figure out if he's the real deal or not.
I mean, he's year 3, number 1 overall pick. You have Ted McMillan, Xavier Legette, Jatavian Sanders. You have some talent. You have Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard. There's weapons. You have a top 15 offensive line. I agree with you, man. Take the shackles off. Let him be aggressive, and let's see what happens. You have an excellent offensive coordinator / head coach in Dave Canales. Let's see. Yeah. I mean, he made Baker Mayfield look really, really good 2 years ago. And then Liam Cohen did the same thing, but he made him look better. MVP candidate.
I'm a big believer in what Bill Parcells said. And he didn't mean the rookie year, but he meant in the lifelong of a quarterback. If you're drafting a quarterback in the first round, and especially in the first 10 picks, you're not drafting him to be a bus driver. He has to be an impact player. And I'm not, and maybe they are unshackling him, and Bryce Young just continues to be checked down Bryce. Well, then Bryce, your job's in danger because, hey, 5-5 is great. We'd love to make the playoffs, but we're also not going to be we're not going to win a playoff game if we do. We'll go with Andy Dalton and we'll crash and we'll figure out a quarterback next year. I feel at some point you got to unleash the dogs of war. All right. Speaking of the Chargers and the Pittsburgh Steelers played what would be the most Chargers-Pittsburgh game. You knew one of them was going to beat the crap out of the other one. It would be a weird game. I still don't feel good about either one of these teams, but the Chargers get a win after the Steelers, uncharacteristically, have not turned the ball over a ton this year, had 3 turnovers, and the Chargers did what, North Turner probably was masturbating to, is they held the ball for 37-plus minutes, and they could have done it more, but late, on a couple times when they would normally go for 4th and 1, game was in hand, they were punting the ball at like the Steeler 45, just to, this doesn't mean anything for these two teams because next week these two teams will reverse what they did and the Steelers will win going away and the Chargers will look like crap.
Yeah, I mean, you saw what the Steelers did the week prior, creating a lot of chaos in the Colt backfield. which Atlanta did the same thing. Maybe there's an offensive line issue there with the Colts. But yeah, it was a bad game for Rodgers. He acknowledged it. He just had a stinker. The Chargers played keep away with the ball. They ran well. Herbert had some big plays to McConkey. It was just a great all around game for the Chargers. They're 7-3, but they're in a hyper competitive AFC West. I'm not sure how they're going to land, but I think they look better than they did last year. I think Herbert looks better than he did last year. Denver doesn't look like an 8-2 team.
Herbert's already thrown more interceptions this year than he did last year. I'm not saying that as a bad thing, but I mean, last year when he was, that was
he was more of a bus driver last year.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, 100%. And on the year so far, he's 2,000 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Oh wait, no, that's just against the AFC. Hang on. Man, ESPN stats are kind of weird. He's thrown 8 interceptions, which isn't bad by any stretch. I was just giving it because of that. So that leads us into the final game we'll talk about from last week, Baltimore. The reports of the Ravens' demise have been greatly exaggerated because of the Steelers' loss and Baltimore beating Minnesota and kind of beating the crap out of them. The score doesn't say it, but J.J. McCarthy had the type of game that why I'm worried about him as a full-time, long-term NFL starter. The Ravens defense, all of a sudden, where did this come from? They forced 3 turnovers, 3rd win in a row. They're now 1 game back in the AFC North. Technically 2 because of a loss. They have 1 extra loss and 1 less win, but theoretically because they'll play again, 1 game back. I'm going to call it now. We're about to see the Ravens go on a run. We're about to see the Ravens win their last 7 out of 8 type of thing.
Yeah, Zach Orr, defensive coordinator for the Ravens, changed the defensive scheme to, I think, a 3 safety formation, which is supposed to accentuate the abilities of Kyle Hamilton. You've seen it the last 3 games. Their defense has been just lights out. They've been reverting back to the old, what we think of the Ravens defense. Even with bad hamstring, Lamar Jackson is such an impact maker for the Ravens, and that just helps everything. It's just like a trickle-down effect. Zay Flowers is good. Derrick Henry gets some looks. And then with Minnesota on the other side, I feel bad because they were attacking the Ravens really well. The defense was getting that backfield. Grandeur, Van Ginkel, especially, he had a great game.
Minnesota looked good outside of a quarterback.
Yeah, three Viking turnovers turned into I think 13 Raven points. McCarthy, I'm gonna have to start agreeing with you, man. You have Naylor, you have Justin Jefferson, you have Addison, you have Hawkinson, and you're just
Aaron Jones.
I feel and Aaron Jones. I feel that if Joe Flacco was the quarterback for the Vikings, they would be scoring 50 points a game.
Or Jameis Winston.
J-Mo, yeah.
Or Sam Darnold. You know who they could have kept?
Yeah.
I love Kevin O'Connell, and I have no idea where his opinion was, but you kind of feel like he had a lot to say since he is the quarterback whisperer. And I don't think that's necessarily a wrong thing to say, but you do have to start wondering, is his job on the hot seat? Because, I mean, we talked about the Brian Daboll playoff win. That was a disaster game for Minnesota. I mean, they look to be poised to be in the NFC title game. Here come the Viking. Kirk Cousins is money Cousins. And then Daniel Jones said, I want to throw for 130 yards and beat y'all in the playoffs. And so you have to start wondering at what point, because you and I have said this before, outside of quarterback, Minnesota has one of the best rosters, just on pure talent and consistency for the most part. It's the quarterback that struggled. And maybe this is just, basically this is his rookie year. I will give him that because he was out all of last year. Maybe this is just the rookie making rookie mistakes. But I will say this, talking about what we talked about with Bryce Young, I don't feel like Kevin O'Connell has shackled JJ. They are running their full offense. So if JJ figures it out, I will say, watch out, because he does throw the ball aggressive. And I will give him credit, man. I didn't think he had some of the arm strength he did on some of those deep outs, and he was hitting some good ones. But at the end of the day, I just think Baltimore is rolling. And check this out. Baltimore, next week, the Browns. 2 weeks, the Jets. 3 weeks, the Bengals. 4 weeks, the Steelers. 5 weeks, the Bengals. They could easily win every one of those games.
They control their own destiny, man.
At 4-5.
Yeah, that's insane.
And the Bengals are looking, going, we suck. We control our own destiny. The Steelers are going, we suck. We control our own destiny. The Browns are going, what are we doing today? Has the season ended? All right, let's turn our attention to this week. Monday night. I know we're recording this like literally 3 minutes before the game starts, but let's give a prediction for prosperity's sake so we can laugh at it Wednesday. I think Green Bay plays their best game of the year. I think Philadelphia is still teetering more than people realize offensively. Not that Jalen Hurts can't be a good quarterback. I'm not saying that. There's just something different about that offense. I think Micah Parsons has that big game we've all been waiting for. I say the Packers win 28-14.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a blowout for the Packers. I was thinking about this game, and I just don't really see the Saquon going off. And I really feel that they're going to try to force the passing game, and it's just not going to work. So I think Packers 21, Eagles 6.
All right, let's go to next week's matchup. We're just going to go right down the line, and then, of course, we'll talk about Dallas and Houston. Dallas being the last one because it is a Monday night game. All right, we got Thursday night, Kansas City at Denver. Give me the Chiefs. I think this is one of those games where we see that Denver's not quite there. The Chiefs are angry. I think this might be the best thing for the Chiefs, that they're not just cruising, and they probably won't get the number 1 seed, because with this offense where they're at and this defense still being good, I still don't want to play Kansas City in the playoffs.
I'm going to go pick Denver. It's going to be an ugly game. I think Denver wins 13-7.
All right, let's go to Sunday Night Football, Detroit at Philadelphia. I think Detroit continues it. Philadelphia loses 2 in a row, and we start the whole, what's wrong with Philadelphia? I think Detroit wins, and I think they might win. It won't be a high scoring because the Eagles' defense is damn good. It'll be efficient scoring. Give me Detroit 35-21.
And I think, the opposite. I feel this will be the game where we find out if Dan Campbell running the offense is the solution.
Ooh, I like that.
I'm going to go Philadelphia 23 to Detroit 13.
At halftime, he's just going to get coffee mainlined right into the vein. All right, Tampa Bay at Buffalo. Buffalo. I like Tampa, but Buffalo's angry. Buffalo's embarrassed. It's at home. It's going to be cold. Josh Allen's going to run for 60 and 2 touchdowns and throw for 2 more.
Yeah, this is a make-right game for last week against Miami. I think Buffalo wins by 2 touchdowns. Tampa Bay is going to start worrying if they have a control their own destiny type situation, or, Carolina's 5-5, Atlanta 3-6, but they can go on a run.
Yeah,
it's possible. Tampa is not going to cruise again this season, so this is a must win for Tampa. But Buffalo is staring up at the Patriots right now, and they need a win.
And also, I just think the AFC is just that much better than the NFC. Game of the week, Seattle at the Rams. I think we're going to get everything we want to ask for. I think this is an old school, back when I was a kid, NFC West, Jim Everett and the Rams, Joe Montana and the Niners. The Niners would almost always win, but the Rams would just give them everything, and it'd always be like 35-31, 38-35. I think that's exactly what's going to happen this week. I think the Rams are going to win, but I think both teams are going to look good. Give me the Rams 38-35.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll be a high-scoring game, but I think the Rams will win. I'm thinking, I don't know, 24-21.
Oh, I think these offenses are too good for that. You suck. Chargers at Jacksonville. Give me the Jaguars, just because that's exactly what will happen with these two teams after Jacksonville collapses and loses and shouldn't have. And the Chargers beat a technically number 2 seed Steeler team. So reverse osmosis, Jacksonville wins 9-7.
I'm going to go, you know how much I love Harbaugh. I'm going to go ahead and say the Chargers going to get a tough road win, 20-9.
I think they'll win too, but it's these two teams. It would not shock either one of us. Travis Etienne goes off for 300 yards. He Corey Dillon's them. All right, let's go to the Jets in New England, Thursday Night Football. I'm calling the upset. The Jets will win their 3rd game in a row. It will be ugly. It will be the ghost of Mark Okay, let's not say that. It'll be the ghost of Rex Ryan. I don't know why. I like New England. I think New England's the real deal. But New England is still going to lose some games that they shouldn't lose. And the Jets, I will say this. The offense looked like shit. But the team in of itself looked pretty inspired for a defense that gave up their two best defenders. I feel like there's some cleansing of the locker room. Not that they were bad locker room, but you know what I mean? It's just sometimes it's a change is a change. So give me the Jets 3-2. The double in the ninth.
I think the Patriots play disciplined football. Short turnaround. They're traveling from Tampa back to Foxborough. Jets are going from East Rutherford to Foxborough. While the Jets have the advantage as far as travel, I think with the Patriots being very disciplined, they'll win 24-3.
Yeah, I think the Patriots win, but I got to do it for fun. Washington at Miami, which is in Madrid. Give me Miami. And I'm not even joking. I think Miami wins this game. I think Washington defense is just so broken right now. Jaden Daniels and the offense has been hurt. The defense hasn't. You and I called this. We tried to tell Washington fans. We lived it. Dan Quinn is fun, but Dan Quinn he's like Don Nelson. He tries too hard to be the mad scientist. He tries too hard to be the guy, the smartest guy in the room. He wants to put linebackers at safety and safeties at corners and defensive, and it doesn't work after the first couple years. It's already not working now. I'll say this, man. Tua made some damn good throws against the Bills. He made a throw to Waddle for that touch. No, it was Washington. Is it Malik Washington? Yeah, Malik Washington. He made a throw to him in the middle of the end zone, about a 45-yard pass, throwing to the back hip where only Washington could get it. And it's like, oh, that's why they drafted him. That's why he was the number one guy. I kind of feel Miami's playing loose and free all of a sudden.
Which is how they should have been playing from the start. I think Miami wins 34-6.
Wow, I love that. All right, let's go to the two Texas games. Houston at Tennessee. Houston will win, but it'll be ugly. Houston offense is weird. Davis Mills, you can make the case, has so far this year been maybe as efficient as C.J. Stroud, and that's not a knock on Stroud. I think Stroud is a bona fide NFL starter, but he has, you and I called it, he has the Dak Prescott regression. Great rookie year, struggle for a couple years, he'll figure it out in the next couple years. He's still figuring out if he plays or Davis plays. I think they win, but I do think it's an ugly game.
Yeah, I think Houston wins 20-12. Davis Mills will probably start. It'll be ugly.
All right, let's go to the Dallas Cowboys in Las Vegas. Monday Night Football. The Cowboys somehow playing back-to-back Monday night, even though it's not on the schedule. I will say this. Did you see how Dallas got screwed by the NFL?
How so?
Dallas had a bye week this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Raiders played on Thursday night. They get almost the exact same because the Cowboys played on Monday. The Raiders played on Thursday. So basically, the Raiders get a semi-bye, like you on with a certain drinks. You're semi-bye. The Raiders get basically the same days off, and especially with everything with going on with the Cowboys, I feel legitimately, all jokes aside, I feel like Dallas comes out inspired. I think. It's sad because everything that's happened with Neyland has taken away from it. Felt like Dallas got recharged by the two trades. We didn't even talk about the linebacker. He's good. He's Leighton Vander Esch without the neck injury. He'll make some tackles. He'll miss a couple gaps. He's the best linebacker until Overshawn comes back on the lineup immediately. And maybe putting Kenneth Murray back outside where he doesn't have to have gap control as much. Because that's one thing I was looking at some of the highlights from Kenneth Murray at Tennessee last year when he had a really good year. He's more of a let me make the read and make moves. Well, if you're inside gap control, you can't do that. You've got A and possibly B. But anyway, the Neyland death is hanging over them. But I think it happening during the bye kind of allows some of that to get dispersed and some of that energy. And I just think Dallas is still a better team than Las Vegas. I have them winning, but I think it's good. The Raiders and Cowboys, the last 6 games they play, always is crazy. We remember the overtime Thanksgiving where the Raiders dominated for most of that game, and then Pollard had the kickoff return for a touchdown that brought them back, and then a blown coverage and the Raiders win. We remember 2017, Derek Carr, the first of his let me fumble it out of the end zone moments when Jeff Heath probably got his name put into the Ring of Honor with that play. I mean, that's right. Isn't he a Ring of Honor player? Give me the Cowboys 42-38.
I don't think it'll be that high scoring of a game, but the Raiders, they have Bowers, they have Genty. They traded away Jacoby Myers, their big threat on offense.
Almost had a touchdown in the Jacksonville game, but he got called back for a penalty. I love that Jacksonville immediately worked him into the game, just like Dallas did when they traded for Cooper, another Raider. I hate these teams that trade for a wide receiver in the middle of the season, and then they hold him back for like 2 games. No, trade. He knows routes. Go out there and run them.
I think Dallas wins 31-20.
All right. You have any closing thoughts?
Man, we're going into the stretch run of the season. I'm curious to see what's going to happen. I don't know if the Patriots are for real, but I'm willing to say no. I think they're good enough, but
right now, hang on. Right now, intern Noe the Pro, who is in the Super Bowl this year?
Rams and Bills.
Rams and Baltimore.
Fair.
I went with it 2 years in a row, even though there's one show y'all never saw, but I promise you. And I was so close last year. People still don't understand how close I was. I love that Mark Schlereth on a podcast was talking about the Rams. He's like, do people not understand that the Rams were a blown pass protection away from upsetting the Eagles at home in the snow in a year where no one else even got close to the Eagles in the playoffs? That Rams team, as you said, is complete as long as they stay healthy. That's the biggest thing. Can they stay healthy? All right, that's going to do it for this week. Again, email the show, odtcnetwork@gmail.com. We appreciate everybody joining us. And until next time, he's intern Noe the Pro, the commissioner. I'm Terry, the host. Be safe, have fun, and let's meet back here next week. Oh, next week, it's a live Monday night football watch party. I think the Cowboys are now 2-2 on watch parties. They beat the Chargers oddly twice. We had back-to-back Charger watch parties. They lose to the Bengals in that weird, we blocked a punt, but we effed it up. And then, of course, last week the Cardinals cheated and beat them in unrealistic ways. I'm waiting for the NFL to change that. But anyway, until next time, this is OutDrank the coverage.